After a long week break, we are finally back. Oh, and I'm looking at my mic levels. I know I'm hitting red now, so I know there's no volume issue. With that said, hey everyone, welcome to another Friday. Welcome to another episode of The Good, The Mav, The Ugly, your spot for deep dives into topics that you might not you might not hear discussed around our spheres that often, like video games, tokusatsu, anime. I am, of course, your host, Spencer Bakuli, the editor-in-chief of Bounding Into Comics, or you might otherwise know me as Mav. And yeah, welcome back, guys. I'm so happy. I'm so glad to be back here. As you guys know, last week we did not have a show, and that was specifically because, unfortunately, as Zero Dozer knows, and I only call him out specifically because we were talking about it, but I lost my voice completely last week. After the 0-1 stream over on Bounding last Wednesday, my voice was just gone. I sounded gravelly. I sounded like I got punched in the throat. There was no way a stream was going to happen last week. So we had to unfortunately take a break, but we are back. And guys, thanks to that little gap, we have so much to talk about. We've got video games. We've got live action television series. We've got movies. Tonight, of course, we're going to have a few topics, but this is going to be a huge open smorgasbord. If there's anything you guys want to talk about, if there's anything you want to draw my attention to, drop it out there. I know we've got a lot to get into. So with that, let's get into the show tonight. But of course, before we get started, going to say hello to the chat as always. First, we have Joy. Hello, Joy being first. I think you probably went back to sleep, which is completely fair. Let's see, Zero. There's my man Zero himself. So he's throwing out a pun. Suicide Squad, Minecraft's Rocksteady. I like it. So if you guys don't know, the title for tonight's stream is just insert Suicide Squad pun here. And the reason for that, and Zero, that's a pretty good one. I actually did think about using a Minecraft pun. But the reason I went with that sort of generic, whatever, is because I've been covering Suicide Squad for Bounding for, ever since it was announced. And I've never had a positive opinion about it, so every piece of coverage I've ever written has it has me making Suicide Squad puns. It has me making so-and-so jokes, all that. I gotta remember to be careful about the first 7 minutes before we get tagged. I went through the same thing with WD Pro the other day. But yes, I threw that in there because it's what's left to say? What joke do I have left to say about how disastrous this game is? Obviously, it's going to be a topic of discussion tonight. Mostly, we're going to focus on the narrative because we've gone into the gameplay. I'm pretty sure that was the last show before I took my little break, that little week gap there. We broke down how awful of a life service, just garbage heap that game has turned out to be gameplay wise. So we're not going to do that, but we do have the narrative for us, so we will get into that. Other topics tonight, I just realized I didn't really get into them. We've got Palworld, we've got Yakuza, we've got localizers, we've got Netflix's Avatar, we've got all this different stuff. Like I said, huge smorgasbord. We're gonna be here for a while. Buckle up, and if you happen to be here and you hang out, I love you all the more for it. Tehillim's here. Shalom and good to see you all. Yes, buddy. Nice to see you. Zero says no volume issue. I told you I'm working on it, right? I got everything boosted here. This stream is slowly but surely becoming a real viable production. I promise you that. And you might hear me sniffle or cough or sneeze throughout the stream. If you guys don't remember, I was sick 2 weeks ago, and it's just a bug, and it just hasn't gone away. So apologies if that bugs you, but I got a bug. Tehillim says, notice that Tim Sheridan was in the headlines again at Bounding. You know what? Why don't we get into that? Sure, let's absolutely talk about this, because this has been a sort of discourse point for me all day. And you'll know this if we'll get into it, don't worry. So first, we're going to switch on over to our new layout. Tonight's Stream Buddy, guys, before we get into the story. So tonight's Stream Buddy, as you can see right here, it's Nami, One Piece Nami, but specifically, it is the One Piece trading card game Nami leader card, right? And I highlight her today because last weekend, I actually went to the One Piece trading card game Nationals over in Los Angeles with some friends. I didn't get to compete in the actual tournament, but I got to play in some side games, got to watch some panels, get some cool promos and everything, play with a bunch of different people. But it was an incredible time. I miss being in the environment where everybody sort of plays a card game. I've never really, what am I trying to say here? Like, I have friends. I've always had friends. I love my friends to death, but I don't have a lot of friends that play trading card games. So to be able to be in that environment with people who automatically know what you're talking about, who are automatically as hype as you about something, it rules. And I specifically wanted to highlight Nami, my leader, because she's annoying. She is specifically the one. So she is not meta at all. She's the one leader in the entire game who has a non-standard win condition, which is with everybody else, the objective of the card game is to damage your opponent's life until they have no more life anymore, right? With Nami, the entire point is to burn the cards off the top of your deck, mill your deck until you have 0, and then you win. So it's super annoying. Every time I sat down and whipped out my leader, even though I lost, the matches would start with oh no, not Nami. And I don't know, if I'm not going to win, I might as well be a little stinker about it, right? But it was really cool. So Nami, hanging out with us tonight. I'm always going to stand behind her as my leader. I'm still making tweaks to the deck. I will place someday. I've got some events coming up soon, so don't worry about that. I promise. But yeah, One Piece trading card game, all that trading card game stuff. I love it. You guys know I love that. Like, for example, if you guys... and this is probably another topic we'll get into a little later, but Nerdigans recently wrote an article about a localization error. Yeah, for lack of a better term, localization error, even though it was intentional, in One Piece. And in support of her article, when I was editing it, I added a One Piece trading card game thing, because it was like, it works to the point, and I get to nerd out for a little bit. So, yeah, that's my little One Piece trading card game. Oh yeah, see, look, she's right here. Well, bam. Look at that. Look at that celebrity guest cameo. But yeah, so that's our stream buddy tonight. Love having her around. And yeah, if any of you guys ever want to get into One Piece trading card game, hit me up. There are online sims we can play on webcam, whatever. If you want to play Dragon Ball Super Masters, if you want to play Fusion World, if you want to play old school Magic the Gathering, I'm your guy. Hit me up. Let's see. Going back to the chat after that little detour. Let's see. Timon says, "Hey, yo, Kabuto. We'll catch the replay. My niece and nephew are with us tonight. Have a good one." Oh, Timon, first of all, hey, buddy. Always happy to see you. Second, no worries about missing the stream. I know you would be here if you could. And even if you couldn't, I mean, we're friends. I know I've got your support. But no, please go enjoy the time with your niece and nephew. Hopefully I have a good enough stream that you'll want to watch it in the replay. So yeah, take it easy tonight, buddy, and we will talk very, very, very soon. Don't even worry about that. Also, happy Zubat Day! That's a Toku thing, if anybody doesn't know Toku. Let me pull him up real quick. It is Kaiketsu Zubat. I always forget the first name of it. But the Kaiketsu Zubat series, its main plot point happens today. So happy Zubat Day! Let's see. Tehillim says, Sheridan belongs in indie storytelling, not mainstream comics. Yes, we will definitely get into that as soon as I hit these last two chat entries. Zero says, by the way, there's a pussy trying to play defense for Katrina on Twitter and hiding all replies against him, and I just ratioed him. Really? Who's running defense for Katrina? Are they running defense over that, like, resurfaced interview that's been circling around? Because remind me when we get to that eventual discussion, like main discussion, Zero. But when it comes to localizers, even if you like are so all in on like, oh yeah, we have to change things for America. Things are so unacceptable. Katrina is still not somebody you want leading that charge, being in charge of that. It's just bad optics all around, bad relationship, like customer relationship. It's bad. Remind me about Katrina when we get there later, because she will play into this. And then, yeah, oh, Shinkai, hello, Shinkai. And he says, hello, Navigator, just like Zero says, hey, Nami. Yep, exactly. The best. Yeah, I love her. I love that card. And she's going to hang out with us for tonight. But let's get into this, because as Tehillim brought up, the notorious Tim Sheridan is back in the news. Now, if you don't know who Tim Sheridan is he is a writer. He's a Hollywood writer. He is a comic book writer. Primarily, he is a DC writer. He is probably most known at this point for writing the Alan Scott Green Lantern book that's out right now. The one that This is the one where he like highly, or not highly, heavily leans into the Alan Scott being gay retcon, to a point where, like, obviously you guys know me. I don't, like, I'm fine with gay people. Support you, be married, whatever. I don't really care. But this, like, his book is so ham-fisted that it feels embarrassing to read. It's sort of like, we get it. It's a gay story. Can we, like, let's have anything else, right? It would be the equivalent. It's sort of like how I feel about things like Turning Red or Elemental with like the Asian aspects where they're like, oh, these parents are strict. These parents don't like, their kids dating. They don't approve of their kids, but their kid, like, they actually share a lot in common with their kids. It's like, we get it. And you keep highlighting all their food and their culture. It's like, we know they're Asian. We don't need to keep, highlighting it. It feels just, whenever there's spotlighting to something like that, it always feels like so, for lack of a better term, gross to me, where oh yeah, no, it's totally cool. I have a black friend. Look, isn't this black guy so cool? I know a black person. Black people are really cool. Aren't black people like, it's just so weird. Like, it's fetishization. That's the word I'm looking for. It's like fetishization of these demographics. And one, nobody wants that. And two, if that's your main objective, it leads to really, really, really terrible storytelling. Because guys, I've read, I don't know how many issues are out of it right now, but I think I've read the first 3 just, in way of researching stuff for the news and all that. And it's bad. It is very much the epitome of the, like, fart huffing up your own butt, like, style of creation that we see all the time nowadays, right? It's bad. And so that's how you might know Tim Sheridan. He also, with that book, before it came out, he sort of did the, what I'm about to recap and then the story we're going to get into between these two events, it feels like Tim Sheridan is still stuck in like 2012, right? Because before Alan Scott came out, everybody, people got wind that it was going to, reinforce the retcon and yada yada. And so people were like, we don't want this. This sucks. Like, nobody wants the Alan Scott gay Green Lantern. And Sheridan went out and he went, oh my gosh, look at all these bigot, like, CG people, like Comicsgate people. Look at all these bigots. Buy my book to, support them, to show equality because Green Lantern's gay. Nothing about the story, but because this is a gay book, buy my book. Buy my book. And, like, right, like, when was the last time you heard sort of tribal competition marketing? I don't really know the right term for it, but to own the other side marketing, it's so weird. It's such an ancient relic, and yet he pulled that out. Didn't help his cause at all because that book is selling terribly for the reasons I just said, right? It's a disaster. He was also a writer on the first season of Masters of the Universe Revelation, Revelation is the first one. He also wrote for Revolution, which is the new one that is out, or not new one, but like the second season. It's so weird because, like, Revelation has, like, part 1, part 2, and now there's Revolution, which has a part 1 and a part 2. And so I don't know what you want to classify as a series because I know production-wise, Revelation and Revolution are just seasons, but then you got the parts because of how Netflix likes to distribute all their crap. It's dumb. No idea why they do it. Talem says, question, is what critics is Tim Sheridan talking about? Hollywood critics or random critics who have a legit history with the characters? Oh, it is the legit. It's the latter to Hillam, and we'll get into it. Don't worry. I'll break it all down for you. Yeah, Zero. Like, that's sort of, it's a your boy Zach joke. Like, are you gay? Gay? And it's like, that's what these books are built on right now, right? Like, are you black? Tell me about you being black. Are you Asian? Tell me about you being Asian. And it's just like, I don't know. We used to make fun of this sort of stuff as like after school specials, right? All those stories that end with, they have the lessons about, learning to share with each other and all that sort of stuff. But they're so ham-fisted and so like boring that they're not really entertainment. They're PSAs. But now those PSAs are the entertainment, right? You can't go into anything these days, whether it's a video game, a movie, or a TV show, a comic book, without everything having to be qualified with some sort of message, right? You could make, like in a comedy, you make a joke and it can't just be a joke. It can't just be a funny thing that you said. It has to link to everything and be relevant to, and it's just like, it's boring. Like, I don't want any of that. If I have to stay within the confines of the real world, that's just miserable, because the real world can tend to be pretty miserable from time to time. So, as we all know, I'm not going to super deep dive into the history, but when Masters of the Universe Revelation came out, Kevin's Clownfish TV, YouTubers, cool people, spoken to them a few times, obviously friends of Bounding into Comics, but they got a scoop from an insider that said Teela was going to, essentially take over the lead role from He-Man in Revelation. And they leaked that, and that prompted Kevin Smith to come out. And as he would later admit, he did all of this because he was just trying to sort of avoid the spoilers being out there. He didn't want people to get spoiled on the series. But he went out, he basically attacked Clownfish. He started leaning into them being liars. He started just dragging them just for no reason. And again, he would later admit straight up that he did it because he wanted people to avoid spoilers. And I've said this point before, and I've said it on Bounding, I've said it here, I've probably said it everywhere else I've made an appearance. But if you are a creator, if you're anybody, right, you do not have an obligation to engage with anything. If you are a creator on the internet and somebody is going out and they've got spoilers to your book, you don't need to do anything. You don't need to jump in and defend it. You don't need to do anything. Just let it be. Let the internet be the internet and focus on your work, right? Otherwise, you just get caught up in gotchas and what does everybody else think? And, let's make a change really quick because the fans on social media said they wanted to see, blah, 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 blah. It's a disaster. But that's where we're at, right? That's what creators do all the time. They take things so personally. I'll go anecdotal here for a moment, right? Earlier today, you guys know, if you follow Bounding into Comics, you know that my way of running the site, I don't really engage with anybody who just disagrees with us, right? Somebody might say, oh, wow, of course they hate the new movie for having a girl. Or, oh, man, of course they're complaining that Marvel is woke or whatever, right? People can say that. You can have your opinions, and I don't care. I'm not going to engage with you because it's your opinion. Whatever. Have it, don't have it. Thanks for reading. Come on back. But I'm not going to try and excoriate you for being, having a different viewpoint than me. But I will take issue when somebody's coming in and saying, it happened today. If somebody comes out and says your work is false, it is deceptive, it's lies, it has no integrity. When you attack the integrity of my work, that's when the claws sort of come out, right? Most creators don't even have that level of principle. There's no one thing or one line where they go, this is my hardline stance where I will enter the conversation. It is anything. We are living, I know everybody says this all the time, and I know I sound like such a boomer when I say it, but I'm not. We live in an era of ego, right? Where everybody ties everything to their, personality is no longer who you are, right? It's what you enjoy. It's what you watch. It's what you wear. It's what you, all that stuff. It's so bizarre. And I don't really know where I'm going with that tangent, but I hate it. Let's put it that way. But back to the point. Yeah, so Kevin Smith attacked Clownfish. Huge hubbubaloo. Turns out, Clownfish was absolutely right. Teela does take over for He-Man in the show, and He-Man is sidelined until the very end. And in fact, it gets worse than that, where you have, Teela being mad at He-Man for sacrificing himself. And, what's that line where she's yelling at him, oh, you left us all alone. How could you do that to us? Imagine what it was like for us to pick up the pieces. And he goes, I was dead. And Teela goes, yeah, well, the rest of us had to live with that. And it's what the what even is that? Men die, women most affected. It's such, I don't know. Here's where my little my little brain fart is coming, is that I am not capable of putting myself in a mindset at all. And you guys know me. I try to, empathize with whoever I'm engaging with or whatnot. I cannot put myself in a mindset where that rhetoric or not even rhetoric, like that level of writing is acceptable, is good, makes sense. Like it's so I went over this early. Oh man, we're just jumping. We're jumping topics all over, but we'll get to this because I went over this earlier with WDW Pro. Go check out the video on his channel. We talked about Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, but there is a scene in the game where after you beat the Flash in his boss fight, Captain Boomerang pees on his corpse. Right? And a lot of people are getting up in arms about it on the internet. They're going, oh, this is so disrespectful. This is so bad. Rocksteady, yada, yada. Now, I push back against that rage because on one level, like, here's my take on it all, right? On one level, the Suicide Squad is supposed, like, that is in character. The Suicide Squad, remember, are supposed to be criminals. They're supposed to be bad people. They can have these personalities, but at the end of the day, they're not supposed to be people you generally think of being great, right? Like, you know what their job is, and you can root for them as the protagonists of the story, but nobody's really going to walk away going like, oh yeah, those are really good people who should be on the Justice League. Those are actual heroes, right? So to me, that whole moment is in character. But where the issue actually comes from, and I just think the outrage is a case of people not exactly knowing how to express this outrage. And I'm not saying people are stupid or anything. I'm just saying I sat and I thought about this for a long time, so I was able to come up with my words. But the problem with things like showing Tila being all snarky like that and showing the Suicide Squad acting like that is that these are supposed to be the characters you get behind. These are supposed to be the ones you empathize with, that you root for, that you go, yes, 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 I want this, like, go, 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 right? When I see Tila acting completely self-centered and offering the worst argument just to make everything about her, that doesn't make me want to empathize with her. And then when so that turns me off of her, goes, oh, what a dumb character. But now I'm stuck with her. Now she's the lead. And it's so conflicting. Why am I supposed to care about them when she's a gigantic, tool? Same with Captain Boomerang and them. Okay, yeah, they disrespected and killed the Justice League, but I'm supposed to like them? I'm supposed to support and want to get behind these guys? Sorry, I'm not 12. I'm not, I'm not le edgy boy. I'm none of that stuff right now. So that is sort of the big problem with that specific sort of narrative move. Right, exactly, to Hillam. Tim Sheridan's self-insert Tila becomes selfish bitch. A complete one, right? Like, it is really, if you guys go watch, it's really bad. It's for all the character assassination and sidelining we talk about with He-Man, Tila also got completely screwed over. Because this is not the Tila who would fight by Adam's side, who cared about him, who loved him. This is a Tila who went off to college for like a semester, got into gender studies, and now came back and thinks she knows everything about everything, right? That's what, it's really bad. Embarrassing. But so, is Tim Sheridan's middle name Meghan Markle? Honestly, with the way he tries to blow everything up and say, oh, woe is me, come on. Yeah, kind of. So, all of that said, with Tim Sheridan's history and the Masters of the Universe history, we are now, during the Revelation, or the Revelation airing, aside from Clownfish, you had lots of people coming out and going, we don't want this. We don't want this bait and switch. We wanted He-Man in our He-Man show. And there was an article, like there is a podcast appearance straight up where Kevin Smith, like a year or two out from its premiere, is going, it was not a bait and switch, okay? If it was He-Man stepping aside, then Iron Man dying in Marvel was him stepping aside. Jesus dying was him stepping aside. And it's like, yeah, that literally is the entire point of both of those stories. Jesus dies so that man can, have a better, closer connection to God, and then, forgiving them of all their sins and stuff. And then Iron Man kills himself, or not kills himself, but sacrifices himself so that the MCU can keep going. He's not coming back. Like, it is the definition of sidelining. But, off of that, Kevin Smith just calls, he goes, oh, you're all babies, blah, 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 blah. The entire discourse around this series has been essentially the production crew telling anybody who was upset with Tila's promotion, He-Man sidelining, telling anybody who had an issue with that, you're wrong, you're sexist, misogynist, you don't really care about anything, you're blah, 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 blah. All the sort of tired stuff, right? And so enter Tim Sheridan. Now, where this story starts is that, like I said, Sheridan is also a writer on Revolution, the first part, I think. I think it's the first. I don't think it's all of it, but it's definitely the first part. The first part of it launched. Sorry, I got a work DM. I had to look at that. Yeah, the first part of Revolution has launched. So now, everybody's going out and doing sort of like press and talking to people. And so Tim appeared the other day on a very small YouTube channel. It is the I had the name right here. Word Balloon with John Ciuntry's podcast, right? So this guy's channel, very cool channel. I actually do recommend you go check it out. It's a very small channel, but the host, John Ciuntry's, he gets to talk with like just a bunch of different pop culture people. He's a really genuine sort of person. He's not the hard-hitting type of interviewer like we sort of would be in the sphere, but he's definitely like he's older than us. Like I think he's in like his 50s, so he's very much like he wants the happier bent to things. So he tries to stay away from drama. But all that said, during his appearance with Sheridan, he asked Sheridan, quote, where was it? Oops, I skipped the quote. He asked, quote, for Revolution, was there any thought of, all right, well, is there a way we could write this to bring back anybody that was disappointed in Revelation? In turn, Sheridan said, quote, I gotta tell you, I was there, and those were not the marching orders, and that wasn't what we were thinking. I think, and you see as you're referencing, markedly there is a different reaction to Revolution than we saw to Revelation. Some of the reaction for Revelation was from people who aren't really fans, but wanted to make a lot of noise. They had a political agenda or whatever. There was some of that. But there were also legitimate fans who were looking for one thing and they felt got another thing. At least in the first 5 episodes, the second 5 episodes is kind of a little bit more of a traditional take. But I think what you have to remember is that what we were trying to do was take 40 years of disparate versions of the canon and try to come up with a thing that felt like a natural extension of it. And I think Kevin's original title for the show was Masters of the Universe, End of the Universe. And the reason for that was because he felt, and I think he was right, unfortunately we had to go through it with Revelation to get to Revolution. But it was about deconstructing the whole thing and reminding us why He-Man is so important, and why Skeletor is so bad, and why He-Man's friends are so important to him and to the universe. We needed to go through the deconstruction and then rebuilding of that in order to have Revolution. That's what Revolution revolves around now, is the dynamic of all those relationships that we were able to sort of earn back, I think, in the first season. I think a lot of longtime fans would be like, well, you didn't have to earn anything back from me because I already felt that these were the relationships. And I know, yes, that there were a lot of people who feel that way, but there were a lot of casual fans too, and a lot of new fans who came in, and I think we need to start the way we did. It was always going to be shaky ground, and we knew that from the beginning. What we weren't expecting, I think, were the trolls who didn't really care about it, who wanted to make noise about it, clickbait stuff, and everything. That was the thing that took everybody by surprise, and it got conflated with the legitimate criticisms of the real fans, and unfortunately those things were very different, and they had very different intentions behind them. The good news is you're not seeing a lot of that stuff for Revolution. And the stuff you do see, that's kind of like naysayers are people, and the stuff you do see, that's kind of like naysayers are... Oh, yeah, he said that weird. That's verbatim. He just said it weird. That's kind of like naysayers are people who just didn't get over the Revelation thing and want those clicks again. I think you're seeing a real genuine reaction from fans, a real positive reaction. My mouth is like, after like 2 sentences gets super dry because I'm still a little bit sick. So apologies for that, especially if I start sounding weird or if I start spitting. But let's break this down, because whether you are intimately familiar with the Masters of the Universe situation or not, whether this is the first time you're hearing about it, I think that statement alone has a zillion and four... what did I say in the article? It's full of... It's one giant mess of contradictions and historical revisionism, right? So the first thing I took issue with was this right here. But what I think you have to remember is that what we were trying to do was take 40 years of disparate versions of the canon and try to come up with a thing that felt like a natural extension of it. He says that, and then he, drops this. Yes, and I know, yes, that there are a lot of people who feel that way. Whoops. Ah! Back button on my mouse. And yes, I know that there are a lot of people who feel that way, but there were a lot of casual fans too, and a lot of new fans who came in, and I think we needed to start the way we did. Those are two conflicting goals, right? If you're going, oh, I want to make something that honors the entire 40 years of all these different, essentially multiversal versions of He-Man, and by that I mean, we want to honor the cartoon, and we want to honor the old comic books, and we want to honor the 2000 series. Like, that's what I mean, not like bringing in actual different versions of He-Man and all that stuff. But if that's your goal, is to do something that's a tribute to 40 years of history, you don't necessarily go into that saying, let's get new fans in here. That's an insane idea to me. Going 40th anniversary, yes, all the fans who know this, they're going to be so excited. It's 40 years. But you know what? We really got to make a draw to bring in all of these old, like these brand new fans. It's essentially like, imagine if, what's the way to put this? Imagine if you, what's a movie that is generally considered that everybody sort of likes? Let's say Avengers, Marvel's Avengers, right? Let's say they were going to throw it up in theaters and say, yes, we are, we want to be true to everything that was that Avengers movie. And so they make that Avengers movie, but then, they go, oh, but we also, I'm making this so much more complicated than I really have to. It's the modern audiences thing. Or no, it's not. Now I'm conflating things. Now I'm just letting my emotions run crazy and they're going all over the place. But so what am I trying to say here? It's essentially, imagine if, okay, here's a perfect way to sort of encapsulate this. And actually, here's a perfect equivalent, which is Crystal Dynamics' Marvel Avengers, right? That game was being developed. It was supposed to be banking off the success of the MCU, of the success of the comic books. And again, at the time of its development announcement, and even probably a little bit in that release window, the MCU was on the top of its game. We're talking Endgame. We were talking Far From Home, which is not top of the game, but people still liked it. We were in the better generation of Marvel films. So that's what that game was supposed to do. However, because they wanted to bring in younger, newer fans, instead of really treating the Avengers as, the heroes they're supposed to be, that 60, 70-year history of Earth's mightiest heroes coming together, you had Kamala Khan, the brand new Zoomer character, put front and center. Everything relies on her. She's the one who shows up all the Avengers. She's smarter than all of them. She knows what to do. And why did they do that? Because we want to bring in the old fans, or we want to bring in new fans. Well, then you're going to lose your old fans, because that's the thing. Nobody, for some reason, that equation doesn't seem to work in Hollywood or in entertainment, and it's bizarre. But that's sort of one of the big contradictions I took away from Sheridan's statement here. But then here's the meat of why I wanted to write this article. So it's right here. What we weren't expecting, I think, were the trolls who didn't really care about it, who wanted to make noise about it, clickbait stuff and everything. That was the thing that took everybody by surprise, and it got conflated with the legitimate criticisms of the real fans, and unfortunately those things were very different, and they had different intentions behind them. Now, again, if you know the history, or even if you just listen to my brief little 5-minute recap, you will know that this is not true. This framing is it's historical revisionism. Because until this moment, and I'm speaking as somebody who has followed this story, John and I, we've covered it forever, ever since the drama started. I'm still covering it today. Having been intimately familiar with all of this, this is literally the first time that Tim Sheridan is coming out and saying, oh, the people upset, or not even just Tim Sheridan, anybody associated with the show, it's the first time anybody is coming out and saying, oh, you know those people who were upset about the bait and switch? They had some right to be upset. Again, up until this interview, all the rhetoric coming out of Netflix, out of the production crew was, you're all babies. You're all incel man babies. Get over it. Oh no, you hate women in role. Like, that was all of the rhetoric. In this article, right here, that Kevin Smith article where he talks crap on fans, I linked it in here. At least I believe. No, I guess I didn't. I've been writing so many different Master of the Articles universe. They're just, all my related links are going all over the place. Yes, so that, like, so what really pisses me off about this is that they clearly know they screwed up, but they are unable to admit they were wrong. So I referenced this a little bit earlier, but earlier today, like when I was talking about what gets me to engage with you through the official Bounding Twitter account, the accusation of poor reporting that came at us today was towards this article that we're reviewing right now, and it was from somebody who said, oh, you left out all the full context. Tim Sheridan never called anybody, trolls or they never hated anybody. He's clearly talking about there's differences between legitimate people and trolls. And I'm like, no, you're buying his word game hook, line, and sinker. At no point has anybody, again, if Sheridan came out or Smith came out or anybody came out and said something along the lines of, hey, it was a bait and switch. We thought it was going to be good. We screwed up, or not even we screwed up. You can just say, we get that it wasn't a popular idea with the fans. It wasn't what they wanted. We're going to try, and course correct over here. Something like that is a perfectly fine statement. I don't think, people will be, the more disingenuous and reactionaries among us all will obviously run with that as some proof that something is up, but that's sort of, all what we need more in society is just taking responsibility for your actions. The more you keep doing this, the more you keep digging holes and being disingenuous, the more, like, this is the internet. I have your receipts, Tim. I have all of the coverage. Nobody has ever said that it was valid to complain about Tila and He-Man. It was always, if you have an issue with this, cry more. It's always been that way. And for him to come out and go, oh yeah, I really do care about the fans. Like, I hear that. We're so sorry. Bullshit. Not only are you not accepting responsibility, but you're only saying this to save face. You screwed up, but you are so snivelly, whatever you want, weaselly, that you can't just say, that was our bad. We shouldn't have attacked you. We shouldn't have done all that. We should have just let the show be the show what it is. Right? And again, if we'd have gone all the way back to the very beginning, and when that rumor came out, if somebody wanted to say anything, if you just said, or like, what am I trying to say here? So, with Revolution, I've been hearing from all the people I follow who have watched the show. I think Clownfish is among them, Exalted Speed. You guys know how much I love that Twitter account, that guy. They've all been saying, like, oh, this is a genuine improvement. This is fun. Like, this is the show I wanted. So I am willing to believe that at some point this was the plan, was to sort of show what life is like without He-Man and then bring him back as He-Man. I can believe that. I will give you the benefit of the doubt. But when you come out and you go, that's not what's happening. No, it's totally going to be a He-Man show. Nope. If you'd have just come out and said something along the lines of, hey, we're going to try something, like, the show is going to start off a little rocky. It's going to have, it's going to start on Tila, but we will shift to a He-Man story. You say that, and people are going to, be a little more lenient. They're going to be more understanding. Come out and just say, no, it's not happening. You're dumb. Well, sorry, I'm going to get right on you. Like, it's a lie. Yeah, Zero, Exalted Speed is, like, the best. I really wish, like, I don't know, like, I just like talking to him. His threads are incredible. He always has, like, the best insights. He knows so much obscure knowledge. Yeah, he and I have talked a few times, not like deeply, but we on Twitter we send messages or whatever. It's fun. He's cool, really cool guy. I definitely go follow Exalted Speed. He's a really good source of comic book news. But so to Tehillim's point, that is why Tim Sheridan is in the news again, because he is out here trying to revise history, whitewash history. He's trying to they're trying to establish a new narrative, which is, oh yeah, fans had some right to be upset, but it was those nasty trolls who were the ones who were angry. But like here's the thing. Of course there were probably, as with literally anything, whether it's the announcement of a new McDonald's sandwich, or you could be announcing there's been changes to our atmosphere, and now everything that was unhealthy for you now makes you super fit, right? Like something incredible could happen, and there will always be people just being pissy, angry, literally trolling you. It's a fact of life, and it's not limited to a certain topic or political view or anything like that. It's human nature. So to point that out and try and write off everybody as that, when who I saw criticizing the show? I saw people like Clownfish. I saw people like Exalted Speed. I saw people like Drinker. I saw people like Eric July. Like, I've seen all these people who aren't trolls, right? They're angry, but they're not trolls. They're upset because you took something they really liked and crapped all over it and said, why don't you like it? How dare you not think it's so clever? Isn't it so clever? How dare you? That's what I didn't really know how to phrase this in the article, but it's like they keep serving us garbage and expecting us to go, yes, my compliments to the chef. What an amazing twist on fettuccine Alfredo or whatever, right? Like, that's what they're so full of themselves. Again, going back to the ego topic, that it's like they can't see past their own bullshit. And it leads us to where we are today. Right, the Stalin effect case of Tim Sheridan. It's Tim Sheridan, I agree with you, Tehillim. He needs to sort of take a break. He needs to step back. He's not an objectively terrible writer. He obviously has some talent, but the way he's choosing to use it, and it's sort of what happens when, the way I see it, it's sort of like everybody has told him and gassed him up saying, oh, Tim, everything you're working on is so important. It's so great. You're changing everything. You're bringing back He-Man. You're showing those chuds who hate Green Lantern what it's like, blah, blah, blah. All that sort of stuff has probably gone to his head, so that he now thinks, oh, I'm on the right side of history, so I can do whatever I want, and I should be praised for it, right? Like, that's not fuck off. I don't know. This little blow up right here is like, you're not entitled to compliments. If your thing sucks, it sucks. Don't attack everybody else, listen, grow. I don't know. It's so frustrating. As a creator, I could never imagine hearing, whether it's, of course, if it's really disingenuous criticism, like the guy who tried to accuse me of lying earlier today, no, I'm not going to stand for that. But if you have a criticism, even if I think you're coming from a completely stupid point, I'll listen and I'll see what does he mean by this? I might not act on it, but I'll at least hear you out. It's bad. It's really bad. Yeah, I don't really have much more to say on Netflix's Masters of the Universe Revolution. I am personally not a giant He-Man fan. I think I've made that clear. So my stake in all of this is not necessarily my stake in this comes from the position of, I want fans to stop being attacked. I want these creators to stop lying and treating us. We're the people who made these properties so popular that you now have a chance to work on them. And you're coming out and you're attacking us. You're saying we're all stupid, that we don't have to, blah, 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 blah. Dumb. Get out of my face. Get out of the industry. All right. Woo, it's getting hot in here. My chair fell a little bit. All right, what should we talk about next? You know what? Let's get into what I know everybody wants to get into. So, okay, actually, you know what? Before we get into Suicide Squad, I want to take a very brief detour over here to talk about localization. So, yeah, this is going to be I'm just going to get into it. Follow me along here. So, as you guys know, I'm obviously not a fan of the current trend of Western localizers running roughshod over Japanese media. Whether it's books, movies, TV, video games, I don't care. And not even just Japanese media. If it's coming from another country, I want it brought over in as close to the author's original intent as possible. Because I want that author's specific artistic message. I don't need the product version of it. I want to know what the human being was thinking behind it, right? Regardless of if it's awful or inappropriate, whatever. It's freedom of expression. I want to know why they read it. It informs everything, right? So obviously I'm no fan of that. Now, to that point about localizers, we need to talk about reactionaries and localizers. And I'll do that as soon as I get to the chat, because I see Tehillim's got a couple things to say. Tehillim says, Tim Sheridan isn't my favorite writer at DC Comics, but you can tell it's better suited for indie comic storytelling. I've told him he should work with Tim Seeley on his Money Shot series. Right, I actually do agree that he would be better for that more sort of slow burn, very heavy on themes and such style of writing that you do see in indie comic books more than in a action-packed, superhero adventure. It's definitely, genre mismatch is definitely an element of why Tim Sheridan's stuff is not landing with fans, period. Then Taylor says, of all the comics and manga I've read, it's better suited to indie comics. Yeah, absolutely. I can definitely see this. If you took away the Green Lantern branding from the Alan Scott Green Lantern book, I can see it being a solid graphic novel about being a gay man in the 1920s, right? Not the most compelling narrative, but at least interesting, a different perspective. It's the superhero framing that throws it all off, right? And we see this all the time where people try to make romance dramas or comedies or soap operas, that kind of stuff with these heroes, and it just doesn't work because that's not what this medium is sort of built for. Remember Heroes in Crisis, where they tried to have therapy being a central good thing to everybody, and it was a disaster. It was probably the worst treatment, depiction of mental health and counseling in all of media. Thanks, Tom King. It's pretty bad, but yeah, to him, like I said, he's clearly got some talent. He's ideology poisoned, and he's also just not, it's ideology poisoning and tone mismatch, which is unfortunate. Hopefully, they can get him on something that works for him, but right now I'm 100% with you. Let's see. Zero Dozer says, Sega insulted their own customers and they did it hard. P.S. Nightmare speedrun any percent. Right. We'll get into that in this story. So, back to the main topic. So I want to talk about localizations and reactionaries, right? So, like I said, I come from the side of, I think the localization industry needs a huge revamp, kick all their asses out of there, all the activist localizers, get them out of there. Just carte blanche, get them the hell out. However, I see a lot of people going on Twitter or YouTube every other day, and they are essentially looking for issues to be mad about. They will go to, for example, I saw somebody complaining today where there's a manga right now being published by Marvel called Spider-Man Octopus Girl. And it's about, it's sort of like a take on the Superior storyline where Doc Ock was cloning bodies, where Doc Ock is in a small lolly, right? It's cute, it's fun. It's coming, they just announced that they're going to localize it, and the title, instead of being Octopus Girl, is Octo Girl. Now, that's really not that big of a deal, right? I think 98% of us go, okay, whatever, it makes sense, you're just shortening it. I've seen people going out and going, what is this? How dare Viz be running all over this original work. What is their problem? And it's like, look, you clearly, if you are of the mindset where you see any, like, because, okay, so many people are in this mindset where it must be a one-to-one translation between all versions of it, both sub-official and like original Japanese. It must be one-to-one, or else it is malicious translation. And that is just not, I need to be very, very clear about this. That's not how localization works or will ever work, okay? With languages, if you speak, especially, and you know this, if anybody out there speaks more than one language, languages rarely, if ever, translate literally into another language, right? For example, I speak French. You know what the term for apple is there? Pomme de terre. You know what that means? Potato of the earth. Doesn't really make any sense over here, but that's what it is over there. Now, if I localize something from France and I said, yes, can you, and I had the character say, yes, can you hand me a potato of the earth? That would be really weird. But if I have the character go, can I have an apple? That works. Like that makes sense because that's what it is in our language. That's the point of localization, is to give you the best approximation of what this work will sound like in your language, right? Now, yes, obviously you can be very close to the original source material, but there are instances where things will have to be, not have to be changed, but, maybe one localizer reads a kanji as, I'm happy. And then another localizer reads it as, I'm delighted. Is that malicious? No. They're both communicating the same idea. It's just, that's what's going to happen in localizing. People are going to have to make decisions, and everybody out there is completely free to not like a localization or any work like that, right? I'm not saying you guys need to go out there and support or you're bad people. Absolutely not saying anything like that. What I am saying is that that's the approach, criticize it on the merits that you don't like it and explain why you don't like a localization instead of going out and attacking the most minor, tiny little differences in something, because you're just going to make yourself look like a fool. This is what I'm about to say. So this is advice for pretty much any field. If you are a reactionary, people are going to notice that, and people are going to stop trusting you, because the more reactionary you are, and by reactionary, I mean the type of person who sees something, retweets it and goes, oh my God, I'm not going to look any more into this. This is bad, blah, blah, blah. Whether it's, a neoliberal talking about racism, somebody on the right talking about wokeness, whatever, just reacting and screeching to anything without being constructive or actually talking about and explaining and communicating to other people why you're upset, it's going to turn people off. And what happens is that where your reach may have been once been widespread, and people would go, I can trust this source because they do their research, they do their diligence, they don't react to every little tiny thing. Once that's gone, once they go, oh no, they are just the same sort of person that's on the internet as everybody else, then you're just insular. Now you're just going to be speaking to your own tiny little bubble, and that doesn't help anybody, right? If you want to just sit there on camera and jerk off to your own followers and, the same 100 people every week go, all right, yeah, we agree with you, even though they already did. Okay. But I'm over here trying to get more people, the general public, to open their eyes and see this is disrespectful to the Japanese country, to the people, to art in general, right? And so in doing that, I'm going to, I want to make sure I'm attacking things that are malicious, where they're inserting memes or things like, very loaded socio-political discourse, not things that can be, sort of, here's an operating philosophy I live off of. For what reason, right? Anytime I see something, I always ask myself, why is that being done? For what reason is that being done? So if I look at a translation, I'll ask myself, why does this translation read like this? And the answer, that leads to the second question. Is it a genuine localization where they're trying and this is just how they thought it would best come across? Or is this very clearly somebody like Katrina Leonidakis being, you know, I don't even know what the right word is, a shithead, right? And thinking, you know, buffing themselves up to think that they're actual creators. You can, it's all, and you know, like, it's very obvious to tell when such, you know, it's easy to tell the difference between the two styles, the two paths of localization. And I'm just getting so tired of people looking at every tiny little change, no matter what it is, and saying that if it is not one-to-one, it is not accurate. And it is this, like, that's, no. You are, you know, it's sort of like, oh, you know, oh shit! Oh no, no, no! I must have accidentally swung and hit the mute button on my stream deck because I use my hands like that. No, it was more. It was more than just a few minutes. Boy, this is as much of a once per episode occurrence as when Geekdom 101 does it in his Dragon Ball streams. Listen, Zero, you know damn well as I do that I've gotten better with it. Okay, like I said, this is a slow moving operation. It is a one man team over here. We will get this locked down eventually. But yeah, I'm sure that whatever I was muted for, because I know what I was talking about, I was just basically, you know, if I can reach any of you out there, it's with a message to, like, ask, you know, to impart anything on you. It's to sort of be more judicious in your analysis of localizations, because if you're just barking at everything that moves past your door and everything that, you know, comes your way that isn't one-to-one, you're going to give the other side ammunition to go, oh, why should we take them seriously? They yell at everything. Literally everything sets them off. So if no matter what we're going to do, they're going to complain, well, then let's just do what we want to do anyway, right? That's what I fear, because I genuinely want this shit to stop. I think I brought this up on a stream here, or I might have just been talking to one of my good friends, Steven. Shout out Steven if he's in the chat. But Skies of Arcadia is one of my favorite RPGs of all time, possibly video games of all time, right? Dreamcast RPG, got a GameCube port, really fun, love the settings, love the characters. Over the past few years, I've learned through resurfaced interviews and old magazines and stuff that the localization of that game is nothing like the original Japanese. So many things have been changed. Everything, you know, character dialogue, weapon names, just to the point where I know I've made this point to Steven, is that I don't even know if at this point we got the same video game as Japan. I mean, it's not even in doubt. I know we didn't because of all the changes. And that breaks my heart because I want the original creator's vision. I don't want weird random interns' vision for the game, right? It's heartbreaking and I want it to end, but we need to be very smart about how we go about this. Yes, I think you put it perfectly, Shinkai. Basically, learn to pick your battles so you don't get drained out. Better to count the cost before rushing in. Absolutely. And that's not to say, again, you can not like a thing, and you can obviously go like, oh, I didn't like that localization. That was a weird translation. But make sure you're attacking it on the right angles and not just trying to dump everything onto it, right? Like, we're not cable news here, guys. We're not trying to lower the IQ of everybody. That's sort of like my journalistic mission, right? I know, obviously, it's a little bit of bounding talk here, but while other site, every site has their editorial direction or whatever. Mine, or at least the one I want under my tenure here at Bounding, is I want to elevate the discourse. Like, I want to elevate our arguments, give people the tools and the language with which to express specific complaints, so that we don't have that level of dismissal, or like, it's not so easy to dismiss their complaints. I'm done, and I'm tired of just the shouting and the insulting between both sides over any topic, that I want an actual discussion to happen. So that's sort of what I aim for. And that's just, just a little bit of background info. But to all of this, what really sparked this sort of, not really complaint, but what really made me want to talk about this was this recent Yakuza news, right? So, long story short, if you remember last week, or actually, because we weren't here last week on Bounding, I published an article covering the Bandai Namco localization team, who straight up they admitted proudly in an article for the Japan Times that they are, they tell video game devs to self-censor. They go, oh, that shirt's that skirt's too short, that cleavage is too low, yada, yada, yada. And, there was, what was the really disgusting quote in there? I have it linked here. Because this quote just makes me feel angry and gross to my core. Right here. One key example, and this is from that Japan Times article that sort of kicked off this latest round of discourse. One key example is, quote, how Japanese game developers dress their heroines as the Me Too movement changes mindsets, says Frank Genti, senior localization manager at Japanese game giant Bandai Namco. Quote, we tell them that the cleavage is a bit too exposed or the skirt is a bit too short. Before, they weren't very flexible, but they become more proactive on such subjects. That is so gross to me, because that feels like cultural imperialism, racism, all that sort of stuff that we always see from the West towards Japan, right? Like, oh, you guys were disgusting perverts who wouldn't change your ways, but now that we're here, they're finally shaping up to be respectable. It's like, dude, fuck off. Who? Like, I'm sorry. Like, you. Like, fuck you. Like, that's all I can really say to that. Like, I know that's an extreme reaction. I know I have some watchers who prefer me to angle away from the bad language, but that's really how I feel when you go and you tell somebody something like that. Like, yeah, it's just so, what's the right word? Like, condescending. Where's my tweet? It's my most popular tweet of all time, and we're gonna pull it up because it remains relevant forever and ever and ever, forever. Highlights. Let's go highlights. Oh, that's right. I can't do highlights. That's stupid. By the way, just quick reminder, Twitter sucks now under Elon, will forever suck until he gets his head out of his ass, and this is proof positive of why it sucks, because now I have to search and find my tweet because it's all locked behind paywalls, blah, 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 blah. There it is. Blah, 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 blah. Right, no, Zero, it literally is that. Quote, Zero says, I'm sorry your father never came back from buying smokes. Again, that is what motivates so many of these modern creators, right? Is daddy issues, arrested development from high school because they haven't gotten over their bullies or their trauma or whatever. Like, all of this it's people making their problems ours, and we didn't ask for it. I don't, as our boy Glenn O'Leary, always shout out to Glenn O'Leary on this channel, the owner of New Haven Comics, the one who had the incredible video. I don't care about you as what you would do as Captain America. I want to know what Steve Rogers would do as Captain America. Nobody cares about your life. Your life's not interesting. Like, I'll say that to my life. If I were to go and I were to self-insert myself into a book, there's not really that much that's going to be exciting. You'll get like, you'll get like heartbreak romance stories, and the character will suddenly be really into tokusatsu. okay, that probably, that doesn't sound right for Captain America, but I'm going to write it. But like, that's stupid. Nobody should do that. But yeah, this article, this entire thing, gross, disingenuous. I'm not really going to get into it. So just, if you want to go check out the article, you can. We've got coverage of it up on Bounding. But the sort of core theme of this article is that localization is so much better now than it was back in the day. And they raise instances like Pac-Man or what is it? It's the thesis is basically localization has improved so much now, but localizers still have a very tough job keeping things culturally appropriate. And the examples they raise to their point is, one, more Japanese games are comfortable, keeping Japanese terminology instead of changing them into an American or Western setting. My favorite example of that trend was in Apollo Justice, the Ace Attorney game, where everything took place in Los Angeles, even though all the backgrounds are clearly like Japan or whatever. Like that kind of stuff, they don't do that anymore, which, it made sense way back in the day when a lot of the Japanese culture was foreign to like younger viewers. It doesn't need to happen anymore now that we have such an easy way to exchange information. That is a good thing. And with Puckman, so if you guys don't know the story, if you've never watched Scott Pilgrim, when Pac-Man, Pac-Man's original Japanese name is Puckman. And when it was being brought over to America, the developers were, they were worried that because of Americans' tendency for vandalism and swear words and stuff, they would easily be, like, all of their machines would have the P turned into an F, so it would be Fuckman. So they made the decision to go, well, all right, let's go Pac-Man. That is sort of one of those more practical localization changes. That's not, we got to self-censor because people are going to be mad at us. That's, people are going to vandalize that. We realize that. Let's make a slight change. And again, they didn't revamp the entire game. They didn't change him into a different character. They didn't call him, Steve Circle. He's just Pac-Man. So for them to sort of use those two examples and conflate them with the censorship of female characters and all of the content in games we see nowadays, it's disingenuous. Because yes, the industry has improved, but that's not an improvement. And for you to throw it into that same barrel as improvements, I see you, all right? I see you. This is my job. Media is my job. Cassie, my queen, she's here. How's it going, girl? I'm glad you're here. We will be getting into some video games in a little while, so I definitely want to hear your thoughts. And Zero says, the appropriate question for the people that defend this is, how is that boot tasting for you? Absolutely. There is no defense for overriding somebody's original intent like that, right? And the second you say that it's okay for any reason, you're losing the plot. I'm not going to listen to you anymore. I don't want Macross, right? I want Robotech. Or no, wait, other way around. I want Macross. I don't want Robotech. I think I brought this up last time, but for just sort of a very tangible example of what I'm talking of this phenomena that people want actual Japanese content, I think it was like middle of last month of January, there were two concurrently running Kickstarters. One was for a continuation series of Robotech based on the original Harmony Gold plot for a sequel. And then it was a Blu-ray release of the Macross 2 movie in like 4K with a bunch of extras. That Blu-ray release Kickstarter annihilated. It got fulfilled or it raised all the money in like a day. The Harmony Gold one failed. Like didn't even meet it halfway. Like that's where we are now, and I think more people need to just get, understand that. Yeah, Cassie says, playing Persona 3, so far so good. Is this your first time playing it? Because I love that game. But I've also learned some really crappy things about that game. Pardon me. About reload specifically. And I'm not going to get into the removal of the trans NPC or whatever. But apparently they've removed like 3 or 4 social links, and now they force you into, if you go do those social links, they force you into a certain path. And I'm not sure if I like that. I think that feels like they're going to sell me Persona 3 Reload Royal, and I'm just like, you bastards. Yes, I do. Yeah, let me give a shout out to Zero. Guys, Zero's talking about it in the chat right now, but if you like video games, go follow him on Twitch, twitch.tv, _dozer. He plays pretty much every night. He just got done playing Sea of Stars, which I've never seen before. That was my first time experiencing it in any way, and it was awesome. And then the reason I want to give this specific gas is because, yeah, Zero last night did a different thing at the end of his stream where he actually gave a very in-depth review of his experience, and it was really good. And he had a lot of good insights. I recommend everybody go check him out. Or if you just want to watch the streams, come hang out with me. I'm always in the chat. You can just yell at me. Yeah, okay, I did get your handle right. Woo, I'm really glad I did. But so all this localization talk, all of this awful article aside, what eventually happened was, obviously, I covered the Bandai Namco angle for Bounding into Comics. The general article itself ended up going crazy, like widespread over the internet last weekend, and it was a big discourse flashpoint. Then Sega stepped in it. Sega didn't have to step in it, but they did. A couple days after the article went live over on Japan Times, they essentially endorsed its contents. They shared the article, specifically trying to highlight the comments from this Yakuza producer. His name, Masayoshi Yokoyama. That's why they highlighted it, but his comments still aren't that good. This was what Yokoyama said in that interview. So that Japan Times article, it interviews Bandai Namco's teams in Europe and America. Then it interviewed the localization team for the Like a Dragon series, the Yakuza series. They just had the new one, Infinite Wealth. You know it. But this is what Yokoyama said when asked about the topic of localization. Quote, "Many representations which were normal in Japan in the first Like a Dragon games are no longer acceptable today. We ask our teams in the US and Europe to read the game script, and they tell us if they see things that wouldn't be acceptable in their country." Now, he's clearly, as you'll see as we get into the subsequent events of this story, it seems that he's coming from a spot of they don't change anything between the Japanese release of Yakuza. It sounds like he's talking specifically about Yakuza games, because he's saying, I've never had anything changed. Nothing has been changed when his quote, as we'll get into, is that nothing is different between the Japanese versions and international versions. But, and I'm glad, if anybody here is a Bounding into Comics reader and you were in the comment section, I thank you, because pretty much everybody picked up on this, and I wasn't sure how well I was able to communicate it in the article. But this is still, what's worrying about this is that it's not, yes, you might not be having, might not go, here's the game file, please review this. Now we're making changes to the finished game, program. It's not that true. But this, having them go in and go, can't do this, can't do that, and having to cut it before you enter development, it's still censorship. That's still puritanical imperialism. And I really wish I spoke Japanese, or more people could sort of bridge this discourse, because I think that's what's happening with a lot of developers right now, is that in this discourse, they're going, oh, our games are pretty much they are the same between the releases. The version I see is the exact same. And it's like, okay, I can understand. You know what? To a certain extent, I can agree with that, because oftentimes, as we've seen with anime or whatever, the actual cutscene or the graphic, whatever's happening on screen, the visuals stay the same. The changes happen in the subtitles, right? And so I think they're again, going back to my translation thing, there's, our languages aren't that, they're not one-to-one. So I think something is being lost here between our issues and Japanese developers. But, so yeah, then Sega shared it because it was Yokoyama, drew a giant wave of backlash, which resulted in them and this is what Zero was referencing earlier when they said they insulted their customers. They had to go and they had to update their harassment policy to basically add these, you know, it's their policy about, like, you know, our customers shouldn't treat our employees this way, which, you know, lots of companies have, but they updated it in the wake of all the complaints against censorship, localization, all that, to include 3 new clauses, including clauses against requests for apologies, demands for compensation in the form of money, or demands for punishment of the company's employees without any reasonable reason, excessive repetition of the same request or complaint, including long-time detention or reprimanding, and any other actions that, in the company's judgment, would cause severe mental stress or fear, or would cause an unacceptable degree of disturbance, right? That's literally them going, you guys, shut up, like chill. And I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and think that this was made in part to, you know, quell the outrage being directed at, you know, their employees, because I've seen it happening on Twitter. Developers that are just, you know, maybe they're just like background artists or you know, network engineers, they're getting attacked, even though they have absolutely no input whatsoever on what the actual contents of the games are, right? So to an extent, I understand it, but this is also transparent. It's very transparently a move to go, hey, shut up. Like, we don't want it, like, none of this, especially with their, this one, the request for apologies, demands for compensation, or demands for punishment without any reasonable reason, right? It's the reasonable word there that does a lot of the heavy lifting, because clearly that's them saying you guys aren't being reasonable in your request for better localization. It's weird. Yeah, it's not great. Let's see. Cassie says, I definitely need to jump on Twitch more often because I got a lot of homies on there. Hey, no, you don't. We know you exist. You got our backs. We got your backs wherever you are. We're there, right? Like, and besides, I think YouTube is a more stable platform for streaming. It's just, its reach is worse for video games, but that's another topic for another day. Yeah, Cassie says, yeah, not sure exactly how to tell we are understanding each other from us to the Japanese developers themselves. I want them to know what we want, and I want to know exactly what they mean. Yeah, no, I'm right there, Cassie, because I think there's too much, what is the word? Like, you know, we're inferring a lot of things. We're trying to read into things. I'm doing it myself. Like, I'm not saying I'm not guilty of it. It's just, it's what we have to work with, right? And so we're limited, but I'm with you. I wish there were some coalition or a group, or even if I knew somebody who I could go up to and be like, can you translate for me? Can we make this a thing and get this mission started? And yeah, Zero, to be honest, being polite doesn't cut it. The Japanese politeness is why woke leftists are trampling them. That's what I'm saying. Like, being polite, that's what they're doing here, but it's not really the main issue that's going on here. This is them just essentially saying, like, we don't want to hear any more complaints about our localization. Cassie says, I mean, with me watching the homies on Twitch at times, I forget to even jump on there. Oh, I know. I know exactly what you mean. But what I'm saying is you don't need to be there. We know you're always with us in our hearts, in our spirits. But so Sega completely stepped in it. And then, so here's where the reactionaryism sort of comes into play. And what really bothered me about the specific discourse that's going around surrounding Yakuza, or yeah, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. Now, I'm sure most of you have seen this scene by now, but there is a scene in the game, and I'm gonna run down this backstory for you so that I can give you as much context as possible. In the game, there is a scene where main character Ichiban goes to get lunch with his friends Yu and Koichi, and during their lunch, he recalls to them that about a year ago, he went on a date with one of their mutual friends, Seiko, and embarrassingly proposed to her right there on that first date. And in the end, she ended up, not really responding to his request and walking home instead, sort of leaving him out to dry. In the scene, Ichiban is recalling to them, like, yeah, this is what I did. It was stupid. And his friends are trying to give him some advice. Now, how do I want to approach this? Essentially, the way the conversation goes is they ask Ichiban, what did you say? And he starts telling them. And there are two specific things that really get, make you and Koichi sit up and go, whoa, 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 whoa. The first one is that, where was it? So right here. Yeah. So he explains to them, they're like, what did you tell her? And at one point he says, next I said, and this is the Japanese version. He said, next I said, even though I don't have that kind of merit, I'll make Sachan happy. So please marry me. And Yu shoots back at him and he goes, do you think a girl like Sachan who works hard and lives her own life would be happy if someone told her, I'll make you happy? And then Koichi goes back, I understand you didn't have that kind of intention, but saying that in a marriage proposal would be a fatal blow. And then they keep going and Yu goes, what did you say next? And Ichiban says, next is, even though Sachan is a woman, she does a great job at work and taking care of her family, which is great. In turn, Koichi goes, hey, you can't say even though you're a woman these days. And Ichiban goes, what? Really? And Koichi goes, because you're a woman or even though you're a woman, there are a lot of people these days who get annoyed by language that make judgments based on gender, not just women. Now, so that's the scene as it plays out in Japanese. Here's how it plays out in English, right? Or what am I trying to say? Let's just get into the English translation and then I'll just offer my thoughts as we go. So in English, the scene, I'm going to be very clear about this. The scene does play out. It communicates the exact same idea with the exact same themes, but what people are seemingly reacting to and losing their minds over are two specific terms used in the translation. And I'll read the translation and we'll get into it. Buckle up. So, in the English version, he, asking him, talking to him, blah, 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 blah. Ichiban says, right, I said I didn't have much going for me, but I swore, that's a typo. I swore I'd make her happy. And yeah, after that, I proposed. In turn, Yu goes, listen, Ichiban, Sachan's a hardworking, independent woman. You think a girl like that really needs someone to gallop on in and save the day? And then, he goes, wait! And Koichi goes, look, I know you didn't mean it like that, but if there was ever a way to screw up, that was it. And then he keeps going and he says, after that, I said, I love that she's so responsible, how it's really impressive for a woman to do what she does. Koichi freaks out again, just like he did in Japanese. Wait, what? You really said for a woman? Huh? Was that bad? And Koichi answers, stuff like for a woman or even though you're a woman, that kind of talk can come off as pretty sexist, even if you're just hanging with us guys. Now, I clearly read to you guys the Japanese version and the English version. If you are, unless you are looking for problems, like the reactionaries I was talking about who lose their mind over the slightest word change, this is not that, it's the exact same scene. They're both chastising Ichiban for sort of qualifying all of Seiko's life accomplishments by her gender and, telling him, you can't do that anymore. A lot of people don't like that talk. Now, I will give an olive branch of understanding here because, as I pointed out in my article, the two terms that I think set a lot of people off were independent woman and where was the other one? Yeah, that kind of talk can come off as pretty sexist. Now, I extended that olive branch of understanding because I know that in recent years, those two sort of terms have become socio-political grenades in the West, right? Anytime sexist comes out or sexism comes out, there's, it's discourse. Oh, you're accusing somebody of something stupid. Oh, blah, 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 blah. Everybody's at each other's throats. Often unnecessarily, right? Often when somebody says, oh, sexist, you're sexist, there's nothing to the story. It just happens to be that the person you didn't like or who transgressed against you happened to be the opposite gender. So while I understand the sensitivity to the inclusion, to the use of those words, this is not a battle. This is not a fight to pick. Niche Gamer, and for those who don't know, I'm not a big fan of Niche Gamer. They are sort of this low quality rage baiters. They headlined their coverage of it, Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth, localization rife with feminist agenda. And it's first of all, no, that's completely not true. Second of all, and I don't, I'm of the mindset that it's not really feminist ideology or gender ideology to go, oh, don't qualify people's things by their immutable traits, right? Like, oh man, Zero, you're so good at video games for a Brazilian. Oh man, Cassie, you're so like fun to listen to somebody who is a tomboy and not traditionally feminine, right? Like, it's weird to do that in anything, and especially with my background coming from, and my mom had to deal with a lot of that actual classic sexism, being a working woman in like the 70s, 80s, all that sort of stuff. So I'm of the understanding that, look at people as people. So, it's the same reason I don't buy into identity politics. Are you a good writer? I don't care if you're a good black writer. I just care, are you a good writer? So, sort of that level of stuff. So to me, this entire exchange is nothing more than a sort of goof on Ichiban being, outdated in his dating, knowledge, sort of stuff like that. It's not, to me, this isn't feminist agenda. There's no, oh, all men are bad for saying that. Wow, you're a terrible person for saying that. It's just saying, yo, like, don't, you know what, Josh? Josh says the term setting off my alarm is sore. You have full power to go in there and edit it. All right? And if you don't, then I don't want to hear from you. But, but yeah, so this entire situation has really rubbed me the wrong way, because anybody who's claiming that, oh, the localizers ruined Yakuza, look at what they did to this cutscene. You didn't actually interact with the original cutscene. Here's how, this is what I did, and this is why my output yesterday for Bounding was so low. It took me, 3 hours to in total to write this article, because I went to the Japanese version of the cutscene, took a screenshot of every single frame of subtitle in their lunch meeting, and I ran it through multiple translators to make sure that I was, getting the correct read of the Japanese scene. And yeah, it comes back and it's basically the same thing. Yes, the words sexist and independent woman, I understand some of you might be sensitive to it, but you also have to remember that those are also words that can be used, right? Look at the rest of the context of the scene. There is no bashing of men. There is no saying women are better than men, or Yakuza are all dangerous because there's none of that stuff. And it's, or, just, or there's nothing like that. It's just saying, hey, don't qualify them by an immutable trait, right? This is what I mean. Like, people need to chill. The more you freak out about shit like this, the more people will not take us seriously. Especially when you're somebody like Niche Gamer, who runs a headline saying this is rife with feminist agenda, and then they also provide the near exact same read of the Japanese scene as I did for Bounding. I'm sorry, that's disingenuous, that's not good journalism, and I don't know how anybody, or why anybody should follow you as a source, because you're not engaged. It's very obvious, guys, and this is something I sort of want to, it's a goal that I wish humanity would sort of, work on in general. It's that it is very easy to see when somebody, to tell when somebody is engaging with a topic just because it can get them clicks, and because they, it's what's being talked about right now, and somebody who actually knows the topic they're talking about. And you can see it in how much due diligence they give, how much context can they give. If they just run with something that one thing I cannot stand in journalism is when people go, oh, like, for example, if I were to write an article and I went, as reported by Niche Gamer, no. Like, I want your own opinion. You can say you got, you sourced the information from Niche Gamer, but I need to know why you're talking about it. What is your take on it? Did you actually read the information and engage with it? Or are you just rushing to regurgitate the exact same thing because it lines up with what you believe, with your ideology? All of these behaviors, right? Like, what you strive towards? Yeah, strive towards is a term. That is absolutely a term. Edit me in real time. Fuck yeah, I'll refresh it. Soar. Look at that. I have so much power I can edit without being online. No, I'm kidding. Thanks for the help, Josh. But like these being reactionary like this, jumping at every, tilting at every windmill will only make you appeal to the people who already are on your side. You won't, change doesn't get affected. It just, the others, the people you're trying to criticize will just keep on keeping on because they can go, you're dumb. All right. And we'll just sit, insular critics will just continue preaching and preaching and preaching to the same group who already agrees with them. And that's just not sustainable. It's not effective. It's not helpful. It's all really annoying to me. But I wanted to get into, do we really need to get into, okay, yeah, so, do I even really want to get into it? It's just more, Yokoyama, basically, he had a Twitter thread, he replied to the backlash, and this goes back to what we were sort of saying, Cassie and Zero, about, I don't know if they truly understand what the problem is, right? Because Yokoyama he's been with the series since the very beginning. He's been with Sega since Jet Set Radio, where he was a planner on that and Jet Set Radio Future. So he, if you like Yakuza, if you like these games, he's been responsible for it, or he's in part been responsible for it. So he's not coming in as an outsider and saying, oh, I'm going to change everything you're doing, yada, 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 yada. But the problem is, so he comes in and he pushes back against criticism of Sega's localization team by saying, quote, "It seems that some of the story has been misrepresented, but localization does not change the original Japanese content. I have them checked to make sure there are no unintentional derogatory terms, discriminatory expressions, religious issues, etc., and then correct them with the original script. In other words, dedicated wham. In other words, there's no difference between the Japanese version and the overseas version." Right? So again, this tweet alone makes me think that he's not, that the actual complaints we have over here about not getting the original work, about being forced to submit or being forcibly subjected to these very, mentally unwell people's personal therapy sessions. Again, I think he's talking about, only Yakuza. Because as we just went through with that above thing, that was a very, very, very practically almost one-for-one translation. And he keeps going where, I've received similar responses that the localization is bad, but I've never been asked to change the content. Things like a character's name resembling a local derogatory term or a mark that closely resembles an actual organization. Also, Sega's in charge of localization, so we're friends. If you don't believe that, you can't make a game. Right? And he just kind of goes in to talk about like there are ethics checks and all this stuff. And again, we are, it's not like, I feel like Yokoyama's talking about like, oh, the Japanese culture is kept intact. Oh, the exact same things happen in the release version of that in Japan and here. And it's like, yes, but that's also not necessarily where our complaints are coming from, right? I think as much as it sucks if somebody went, oh, I want it, I changed the religious symbol for this character because it was a little too close to a Christian cross, right? Obviously that's different because Christian cross are in everything, but that's sort of what I mean, right? It's understandable. Or like the Pac-Man thing. Sometimes they're understandable and it's not the best decision, but you can make it work and people can go, I wish it was Pac-Man, but I also understand, right? Like I do. I wish it was Puckman, but I also understand nobody's going to want to start purchasing arcade cabinets from a company if every one of them out in public just says fuck, especially when it's aimed at children, right? Like things can happen, but that's not what we're talking. That's not what us in this chat, in this discourse are talking about. We're talking about the subtitling, the overwriting things, the outright actual censorship of stuff. And, like we were saying at the beginning, I do think that nowadays this censorship happens at before things get moving in the like development arm of it, like the actual video game, like in the writing and stuff, I think that's where it all happens. Where they go and they ask the localizers, hey, what is this? Do you think this is better? But again, it's really hard to sort of address Yokoyama's point in this context because I think he's only talking about the Yakuza games, which are they are an exception. They have had, for the most part, really good localizations. It's just, again, I think he's conflating things because he also does this, where he addresses the skirt length comment, right? That a lot of people are upset about, but that wasn't directed at Sega. That didn't come from Sega. That was Bandai Namco. So I don't like, nobody was talking about that towards you, man. So I don't know why we need to talk about it. And, and then he says, because that's how the world changes, we will continue to embrace change, blah, 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 blah. So long story short with this particular story is stop being reactionary. Stop tilting at windmills. Like Shinkai said, pick your battles. Don't swing at everything because you're just going to come off as unhinged and unreliable, especially when people outside of your little bubble are able to go, they're losing their mind because it went from Octopus Girl to Octo Girl? Okay. Really? I thought this was about, like, actual, like, localization mess-ups, not this. And so, yeah, I just wanted to take a moment to rant about localization, about the localizers who are ruining everything. Get them out, obviously, but also be smart about the discourse. Be smart about how you engage in what everybody means. Like, yes, I agree with Zero. Like, let's look at Zero, right? As we all know, Zero is our resident fight picker. We know this. He likes to get into arguments on Twitter. He's admitted it to me. He knows. He's like, yeah, I know. I'm a little ready to jump the gun. But even in this situation, like I saw Zero called out Sega. He tagged me in it the other day. He messaged me about it. Like, we talked about it. But at no point has Zero lost his mind over this localization. Never have I seen Zero lose his mind over, Steel Sword being renamed to, like, Steel Blade. Like, that's the kind of stuff that he's not losing his mind over. And so for all intents and purposes, you can say he likes to pick fights, but he's also not just swinging at shadows. So, where's my water? I have one more water bottle, or I did. Where is that? Ah, there it is. There it is. Woo! It's hot in here. In my tiny little abode. All right. Exactly, Josh. That's what I'm saying. Dedotated wham. But where should we go from here? So that's what I have to say about localizers. Not a lot. I pretty much said everything I've had to say. So let's move on, shall we? One thing I wanted to bring up before we get into everything. Oh, right. Okay. So that's part of that story. There was something where I wanted to I don't remember what I wanted to talk about anymore. Oh, now I do. This is going to be just like a quick little blurb because I mean everybody already knows about it, but yeah, dude, Palworld rules. Holy crap. I've got the game and I've been playing it after work like every night this week. I've been playing with friends, and yes, guys, I know my webcam's going screwy. No idea what's going wrong with it. Give it a minute. I will stop censoring me like I'm a Japanese naughty video. What is this? I'm on to you, Mama Susan number 2. I forget who that new guy is who's in charge. But pardon me. Yeah. I just kind of wanted to take a quick detour, give a huge shout out to Palworld. Obviously it's Pokemon inspired. I don't think anybody can deny that. And yeah, a lot of the designs clearly take inspiration from other Pokemon. But I think even if this game were to get sacked right now because of, if Nintendo wanted to do a lawsuit, the damage to the damage isn't the right word, but like the point's already been made. Where Palworld is just it. I don't know about you guys, but this is sort of the Pokemon game I've been waiting for forever, right? Like, I've always wanted, ever since Pokemon Stadium #1, I was like, when are we going to get a Pokemon MMO style game where I can run around, catch Pokemon that are wandering around, do stuff out in the field, fly up in the sky on my own, all that stuff. So I've been wanting that for years and years and years. And so when we got, here, will this turn my thing back on? Oh, nope. So when we got Legends Arceus, like, I loved Legends Arceus. I was obsessed with it. Like, Josh can attest to this. I was playing it every day. I was talking to him about it. It was one of the last games I streamed when I still had the time. It pretty much, like, to me, that was a step in the right direction for Pokemon. Pokemon at this point is, I don't know, guys. As someone who grew up with Pokemon, started with Pokemon Red, played them all the way up through X? Yeah, X. The Pokemon games are just lazy now. They're the MCU of video games, where they just fart out something full of errors, full of glitches, full of just bad decisions, and they expect you to go, yeah, you're the best, here's my money, right? And I'm talking things like cutting out the Pokedex, all the graphical glitches we're seeing, the lack of good animations for Pokemon. Here, where is this stupid, this clip, if I can find it, it is the one that always makes me go, Pokemon is stupid. Or not stupid, but like, you guys really, really, really need to do something about it. Oh, good, it is this one. I did find it, like, right away. I wasn't sure if I had the right search term for it. But this is the clip that always lives rent-free in my head about how bad this series has gotten. Right? So, oh man, Xerneas, go! Unleash your move! Oh, Twinkle Tackle, this is going to be so cool, right? Oh, and unique animation incoming. They literally just have the model on a track. Side, boo. Like, there's no actual change to the rig. It just moves the physical model. Like it's a damn Bethesda game. Like, this is where we're at, and mainstream titles haven't done anything to improve this at all. Arceus was a step in the right direction, and then they went right back on it with whatever that last one was. The island ones, the Sun and Moon. Is that what it is? I don't remember anymore. Shinkai, or let's see. Oh, you saw that, or what was I gonna say? Zero says, I only know this guy is another one in a line of Indian CEOs who hate free speech. Yeah, no, that is who it is. I just don't know his name. I'm not giving him any like credit or benefit of the doubt. I know he's an Indian guy. I know he's on the same ideological bent as Mama Susan. So that's where I am, right? Zero says, you saw that Japanese gaming agencies are acting like a whisper network against Palworld. Yeah, so just a quick aside, that is happening, especially for like VTuber agencies saying, don't touch Palworld, be careful with it. Personally, a lot of people are running around going, oh, this is cancel culture. Oh, this is blah, 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 blah. Pokemon's got their grips in them. I don't think that's what it is. I think genuinely right now, it is just, the copyright situation, everybody doesn't know what to do. And so they don't want to risk it, getting their, because again, like these streams for these agencies are what make them money. So if a stream goes down because they, maybe Pokemon gets their injunction and they're able to shut down Palworld, and then their streams all get taken down. Well, that's a huge revenue chunk gone for those agencies. So again, like this is obviously out of my legal wheelhouse because it deals with Japanese law exclusively, because Nintendo and Pocket Pair Inc. are both Japanese. But that's where it is right now. I think over time, once all of this sort of settles, you're going to get, like, they'll say, go for Palworld. I also personally think, and this is my tinfoil hat moment, I think they're saying avoid it because they just don't want people to have to deal with the shit, right? We see it all the time. Somebody mentions Palworld, you have all the weird Pokemon obsessives coming in going, rip off, oh my gosh, how can you support this? This is so terrible. It's ruining gaming by taking, like, all of that stuff. You don't want, remember the Hogwarts Legacy discourse? You don't want, I'm sure after what happened to like Pikami and all that stuff, I think that's who it was. I'm not a VTuber guy. I rely on Bounding's Ryan Pearson and then my buddies Al and Nils for that information. So I don't know exactly who it was, but I remember, lots of VTubers were getting harassed, straight up harassed and goaded into suicide because they just wanted to stream Hogwarts Legacy. So I think this is more just a we're watching our backs for a second precaution than it is a censorship precaution. But again, we'll see how it plays out. I could be completely wrong, and if it is, I will eat crow when we get the answer. Shinkai says, this is pretty dumb drama for me. If Game Freak didn't care about Palworld, why are crazies encouraging a lawsuit? It's one Japanese company to another. It won't be hard to do. Because, Shinkai, the reason people are encouraging a lawsuit against them is because it's just another outlet for their self, pat on the back activism. They think these are the same people who think that they're doing things by getting you to oh, we fought sexism because we got Milo Manara's Spider-Woman cover pulled. Did you really? Did you really do anything? I'm pretty sure honor killings are still happening over in the Middle East. Did you really help the feminine? Be quiet. It's all that performative activism. So they're able to just sit there from their computer and go, Pokemon, sue them! Pokemon, sue them! And they do it all under some sort of misguided understanding of, you know what? No, I was going to say it was a misguided understanding of artistic integrity, but it's not even that. They are just fanboys. They are just dick writers. Because go look at every other RPG that's ever come out. You're going to see overlap between monsters, especially Dragon Quest and Pokemon. And yet nobody's haranguing Pokemon to change all their designs, right? So I think it is definitely... who said this to me? Cider, over from Bounding Cider Hype. He said this to me the other day, which was, I think the statement from Pokemon, this one that I had highlighted, where is it? Yeah, this one, they're going to launch an investigation, yada, yada. I'm starting to think it's just to get them to shut up. Because this game has, I need more people to understand this. And not necessarily you guys, I mean more the Nintendo idiots. Is that this game's existed for 4 years. People have known about this 4 years. If there was going to be a point where Nintendo said, based solely on the designs, we're going to sue you for copyright infringement, it would have already happened. Now, there are still some questions out regarding whether or not they took and modified some actual models from the Pokemon games, which, if that is true, the investigations are still out. That's a little scummy, and I would understand the taking issue with it there, but that could lead to a lawsuit because it's actual work that they're stealing. But just going, hey, your thing kind of looks like my thing, there's no standing there. So I really think this is just going, shut up, get them away from us. We don't want you here. Yes, Xerneas died on the way back to his planet. He did. He Wilsey-axed it. If anything, Pokemon should be encouraging endorsement of Palworld. If anything, more developers, and I talked about this the other day, more developers need to be, or just more figures, right? More entities in general need to be, work with fan developers and creators. Bring them onto your team, right? That's what they did with Sonic Mania. They went, oh man, you guys are super good at making the Sonic fan game. Why don't you actually come on to, we will hire you guys to make a game, right? And it was amazing. You have fans here making the Pokemon game people have wanted. Yes, it's a little ridiculous with, the guns and stuff, but if Pokemon did something similar to even just improve upon Arceus, then this game probably wouldn't be selling like hotcakes. But because you've remained stagnant for so long, and then somebody came out with the literal thing we've been asking for decades, I mean, of course your lunch is going to get eaten. Let's see. Zero Dozer. This is where we're even at. Nintendo being shown up by a few randos with 10K. So, I want to, let's make this clear, too. This is not necessarily Nintendo. I'm using Nintendo as an overall banner because it is owned by them, the franchise. But the developers are Game Freak and the Pokemon Company. They are their own separate entities responsible for the game development. Nintendo handles all the marketing, licensing, all that kind of fun stuff. The games are with Game Freak and Pokemon Company. They're the ones, and yes, they are subsidiaries of Nintendo, but they're not core like Nintendo. They aren't Nintendo. So, yes, they absolutely need to get their asses in gear, but that is a Game Freak problem, not necessarily an overarching Nintendo problem. Because again, Zero, remember, we just got Tears of the Kingdom, which was incredible. We've got Super Mario Wonder, which was really, really, really good from what I've heard. I haven't played it yet, but I've heard it's great. So Nintendo is clearly still on the top of their game. It's just them. It's just Pokemon for some reason that is stagnant. Well, not some reason. It's because it's easy, like the MCU. They can just churn it out and people will buy it. It's stagnant, and it probably won't change anytime soon. Yo, Dante, how's it going, buddy? Nice to see you. Better late than never. Not even a problem. Tehillim says, imagine being able to catch a Team Rocket teammate to use in a Pokemon match. That's what you can do in Palworld, right? Like, you can catch people in the Pokeballs. It's incredible. So I was discussing this yesterday with Jonas and Vash over at That Park Place, because I was watching their stream and they were like, hey, jump on in. But look at the difference. So look at the difference between a Disney theme park and then a Universal theme park, where Disney's sort of core, the way they market themselves is, we are, childhood. We are innocence. We are that magic you remember from being an innocent kid with not a care in the world, right? And so when you go into their parks, they do their best to try and keep you not oblivious to the real world, but, escapism. They want you to escape. They want you to get into their fantasy for a day and sort of remember what it was like to be a kid. And so they go to great lengths to make sure that things aren't, they don't break theming, or not like that, but like they go to great lengths to make sure things are all kid friendly, that all the attractions can accommodate families, yada yada yada, that nothing will get a content complaint. And this is, aside from all the overarching culture war battles. Let's say this is Disney 10 years ago, right? But while that's great, and you have that is magic that definitely exists when you go to a Disney thing, especially if it's like your first time. When you go to a Universal park, they recognize that they aren't the magic thing that everybody grew up with as a kid. So they sort of lean into their more out there, adult oriented is the wrong term, but like adolescent, older crowd oriented properties, right? So you end up getting things like the Simpsons ride, or the MIB experience, or Harry Potter World, where they understand that everybody, like the fans of these properties, are a little older. They can handle a little more grit, a little more real reality leaking through into the park. So at least for me, and this has been an experience that I've been sort of anecdotally documenting over the last 2 decades, ever since I was in college, and I, just by asking friends, which one do you like better? As I've grown older, more people like Universal because it feels more genuine. It feels less like there's putting up a facade. They're able to lean into the weirdness, all the stuff that you won't get at Disney. And if Universal tried to emulate Disney to a T, they would fail because they don't have that nostalgia factor. Pokemon's lucky because they were like the first one. People grew up with them. Same thing with Pokemon and Palworld. With Pokemon, when you boot up a Pokemon game, you're entering that world, you're entering that franchise, you're going to see characters things it's going to be fun to return and see all the new things. But when you go to Palworld, yes, it's Pokemon, but it's not quite Pokemon, and it's got guns, but there's so much more depth and there's so much more to engage with here as a grown player that I find myself far more interested, putting in far more time into Palworld than I honestly probably did Arceus. And again, I loved Arceus. It was one of my top games of, 2022? It was fantastic. But Palworld it's hitting that intersection of what everybody wants. It's doing the right amount of survival crafting with the right amount of exploration. There are lots of quality of life issues to fix, especially related to travel, like travel speed and respawning and stuff. But overall, this game's a banger, and I'm so happy it exists simply because, like I said, if it went away tomorrow, we know now what a Pokemon game could be capable of. And I don't know how Game Freak goes back and says, that was nice, have another, right? Nobody's going to buy it anymore. That ship has, sailed. Let's see. Imagine being, Zero says, by the way, you joked about not being in Wolf's server in my stream. Wolf just said you're welcome to join. Oh, awesome. So I want to make this clear just because I don't know if I was clear because I was in the text chat and you were speaking to me, but I'm not feeling any sort of like FOMO or exclusion or feel bad or anything that I'm not in his server. I made that joke because you were going, oh yeah, so this thing that happened in Wolf's server, and you were going in this like, and you were using so many reference points, like this conversation from the other day, and then we had the other conversation, and I'm like, okay, I don't know what you're talking about. So it was completely in jest. No, not asking. I'm never going to be that person who goes, get me in there. Why would I be in the club? Like, if they want me in there, just throw me an invite. I'm not going to force my way. Now, we talked about Palworld. Also, there's the best one, character in all of Palworld because it's a giant Hercules beetle. We've talked about Palworld. This game is doing gangbusters. It got 1 million downloads in only 8 hours. That's an insane amount of interest, right? No Spencer's allowed. Oh yeah, I mean that's fair. Oh damn it! What does he say? Like the No Homer Club. Oh, what? Your name's Homer, and it's like, oh, it's Homer with a Y or something like that. Isn't that the joke? I cannot remember it off the top of my head, and it's disappointing because I know we just referenced it to each other. But with all of this said, let's get into probably the biggest hot button topic of the week, which is Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. Oh, it's not even the article I wanted. I've been writing so much about it that it's all over the place. So, as you guys know, we have talked about this game on this channel, on this stream, extensively. Like I said, we went through the live service gameplay of it all a couple weeks ago. We broke down their preview run. It was awful. Nothing has really improved from there. But now that the game has officially released, right? It's out for players to play. We are now getting, full narrative rips. We're getting cutscenes uploaded to YouTube. So we're getting just a terrible, terrible glimpse into what happened to Rocksteady. Now, a very important part to sort of remember up top while we go on to discuss this game is that the Rocksteady who made this series is not the same Rocksteady who made the Arkham trilogy. Not only was that a separate series and when the studio was a bit smaller, so they've expanded and gotten more talent since then, but that was 10 years ago. Arkham Knight was 2015. Those people, they've probably moved on to other projects. They've probably gone to other studios. I imagine maybe some of them have even gotten out of the industry with the insane collapse of the employment collapse we're seeing right now. So it's Rocksteady in name only, essentially. Just like there are a lot of studios these days that are like that. Capcom is like that. Who are the other ones? I can't even remember off the top of my head because I just avoid them nowadays, right? Zero said, it says no Spencers. Oh yeah, we're allowed to have one. That's what it was. I saw some of this. Zero says, I saw some of the Suicide Squad shit and holy fuck, they actually went out of their way to disrespect Batman. Yeah, let's start with Batman. So the Batman thing, if you were paying attention to just sort of social media over the past few months, this actually leaked a little while ago, ahead of the preview event. There was an audio leak. I actually covered it for Bounding. And at the time, obviously, it was like, maybe, we don't know if this is official, yada, yada. Now we have confirmation that it is official. The game does send off Batman with just one shot to the face, right? Like, it's really bad. And this isn't even getting into everything. Like, I have so many narrative problems with what I've seen of this game. I recapped this a little on the 01 stream the other night, but I've been, just in the background for work noise, I put on just a full play of all the cutscenes from the game. And it is just loaded with the cringiest MCU tier banter at every single turn. It's so annoying. And then the disrespect it gives to its characters is just beyond the pale. Like, it almost feels like the people who wrote this game never interacted with a DC property in their life, right? Not only do you have this shit where Batman, Kevin Conroy Batman, the Arkhamverse Batman, the version of the Batman that made this entire game possible, out to pasture with less respect than Old Yeller, right? Like, just cocoon. And from Harley Quinn, not Joker, not Clayface, Not even freaking Killer Moth. It's Harley Quinn. I it that what is there to say to criticize that aside from like all you have to say is that Harley Quinn kills Batman, and it's an insane premise, just off the bat. So, like that's obviously the Superman one is a big one. There is a I've always sort of just had a general problem with the concept of the Suicide Squad as a anti-metahuman task force, because, or at least an anti-Justice League force. It was the same thing that Amanda Waller did in the first Suicide Squad movie, where she goes to have dinner with Bruce and the generals or whatever, and she's like, we need to have a plan in case, or we need a team in case Superman goes rogue. And it's like, so your fucking idea if Superman goes rogue is a guy who shoots fire, a guy with a skin condition, Harley Quinn, and a guy who shoots bullets, and a boomerang thrower? Like, what the... How does that make any sense? How am I supposed to take that as anything but a joke? What the fuck are you supposed to do against a Kryptonian? Right? And so then you have this game where they take on the entire Justice League and win, right? They kill Batman, they kill Superman, they kill Flash, they kill Green Lantern. All of this shit happens, and it's still just these four idiots. Like, or not even, that's not the right way to write them off. The proper way to write them off is these four almost completely non-powered human beings. The only one who has powers is the only non-human, King Shark. It's a disaster of a game. Let's see, where... I'm going to bring up this image because I used it for today's thumbnail, but it's something that's been bugging me ever since I saw it happen. So, at one point in the game, they beat Green Lantern. Again, doesn't really make any sense. You have the most powerful weapon in the world. How does a person with guns take you down? Whatever. At the end of it, when Green Lantern dies, Captain Boomerang goes over and cuts off his finger and starts trying to pull the ring off of his finger and go, let's try it out. He eventually gets it off, but it like falls to the side and he ignores it. King Shark ends up picking it up, and he's able to activate it, as you see here. He recounts the Lantern Corps motto, summons a giant shark to go forward and try and attack Brainiac's ship. It doesn't work, and everybody goes, oh man, we totally thought that would have worked. And then King Shark starts getting corrupted by it. Like, he's like, I can't control it, I don't know what to do, what's happening? So then they knock the ring off of his finger, and it hits the ground, falls off of the roof of the building they're on, and it lands in Metropolis Bay. That's not how Green Lantern works, what the fuck soever. Like, I know I'm swearing a little more, but all this makes me so furious about how they treated these characters, right? If your piece of media, if you are making a Green Lantern story, and one, your ring, if a lantern dies and it does not go back to Oa, or immediately go to seek out another user, you're writing a bad story. Like, I'm sorry, that is, the fact that they killed John and his ring just hung out on his hand, that's not how this works at all. And the only reason you made it that way is because you needed it to work for this one stupid cutscene. It's so bizarrely stupid. It's so... It's member berries, essentially. It's going, remember, you like that? Isn't that cool? Isn't this a cool visual? Funko Pop incoming. Like, I guarantee a Funko Pop is incoming. And so, yeah, like, if you see a DC character in this game, they absolutely just crap all over him. Like, I mean, we've gone into Harley being revived after her sacrifice. Ivy being revived after her sacrifice. We've gone into this game taking place after Arkham Knight, where Batman reveals himself to the world and then fakes his death. And then they explain it in-game as that, then the other superheroes appeared and they came and asked Batman for help. And he said, okay, I'll help you. And he joined the Justice League. It's like, what the fuck are we doing here? This is so weird. Who was this game made for? This game was made for the people who are like, who like subversion. That's what it is. All those fans who go, I like my expectations being subverted. The story is inherently good if it just does something new. And it's like, no, because this is what happens here. Can't believe, yeah, Shinkai says, can't believe they did a more WTF scene than Justice League War, where Batman just swipes the ring from Hal. Right. That, like, I'm not a fan of the ring being easily able to come off of anybody. You can disable it. You can, maybe extract it, but you shouldn't just be able to pickpocket it off of somebody. It's a disrespect to the Green Lantern. And that's sort of, more disrespect to, like, all the characters get disrespected here, essentially. Again, the big Superman disrespect is mainly the fact that we're supposed to believe that the Suicide Squad can do anything to him. With Batman, he gets put down less respectfully than a dog. With Green Lantern, when he dies, they go, haha, look, he's wearing, like, his suit disappears and he has, like, Green Lantern boxers on, and everybody goes like, what a nerd. When the Flash dies, Captain Boomerang urinates on his body. Now, quick note about that scene where Captain Boomerang is pissing on Flash's body. A lot of people are getting upset about it. A lot of people are going, oh, that's so disrespectful to the Flash. How could you do that? He's the Flash. But while it is disrespectful, I think people are attacking that, like, they're misrepresenting, misattacking, right? So, in all honesty, like I said at the top, and I think I may have touched on this at the top, so if I did, please feel free to stop me if I'm repeating myself. But you piss on, like, the Suicide Squad are bad people. They are not supposed to be good guys. They are supposed to be criminals, bad people that you look at and go, oh yeah, they suck. I don't want anything to do with them. I don't want to emulate them. But then you have, so, Boomerang pissing on Flash, that makes sense. Like, it is in character, unfortunately. The actual disrespect comes from the fact that we as players are subsequently expected to still be rooting for these characters, to still get behind these characters, to still go, yeah, I love Captain Boomerang. Like, that was awesome, right? Like, no. And to expect anybody to actually, to have, not even expect, to have even thought that could have been a possibility is just, it shows such a disconnect from the source material and the actual product that you're making. It is bizarre, right? No Bizarro either. Where's my Bizarro? Right, condescending, or why I don't know why I say your full name sometimes, or your full username. But Josh says, even Snyder understood how the ring is supposed to behave when in Justice League, the ring almost went to Darkseid and then just left to Oa or wherever. Exactly. Right? We even see that in the animated series, the awesome Green Lantern animated series. If you haven't watched it, go watch it. But that has, rings going back to Oa. It ends with the Blue Lantern ring, being created and going after Razor because he's now worthy of it. Like, that's how it's supposed to be. This isn't just something you pick up on the ground and you put on, oh yeah, now I'm Green Lantern. It's not, like, there are superheroes like that. That's not what this is. It's ridiculous. Like, I don't know. I'm so mad because I love Green Lantern as a character. My favorite is Kyle. Second favorite is Guy. But nobody, like, we rarely ever get anything good because nobody ever really knows what to do with them. Right? So, narratively, this game... let's go... this was something that I wanted, like... My main issue with this headline, or, like, this story, it has to do with character assassination, right? So, in the game... There are, lots of games have this these days, which are like codex files, like profiles, where it's just like extra information that can flesh out, like the world, the setting, provide you information. Sometimes they detail like real world facts, like first appearance, Action Comics, what, like #1, things like that. They're fine. They're fun. They can have interesting things. And they do often contain like really important information that helps flesh out the setting. Now, in Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, there are two different forms of these files. One is it comes from Captain Boomerang. And the ones that come from Captain Boomerang, you'll see right here. So here's the profile on the Flash. And Boomerang just, he kind of talks trash. All you need to know about Flash is that he's a shiny red beacon bastard to every high school sports captain who ever thought they were better than you. You're just making a living as a hard-working rebel, and then this guy shows up, throwing his weight around, calling himself the fastest, the funniest, the best. Who asked, mate? If he was any more full of himself, he'd have little flashies dripping off his nose hairs. So, see, that kind of stuff, nothing really egregious there. It makes sense. It's all in character. He's their enemies. He's not going to give a glowing praise to his heroic career. Not really a problem with that. The second type of profiles come from Lex Luthor, and they're presented as being taken from like his personal log files, right? Like his own research, his own notes. So, yeah, Lex Luthor the Redditor, dude, 100% Lex Luthor the Redditor. But, so here is the profile for Wonder Woman, and I will just give it a quick read down, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. So, according to Lex, this is what he thinks of Diana. Quote, I am prone to wild imaginings. As a man of science, speculation is how my brain finds leisure, and the closest thing it knows to play. But there is a little amusement to be found in imagining how improved Earth would be if instead of forcing the Amazons into hiding with our cruelty and avarice, we had instead looked to them as a model, replicable if only we could set aside our baser instincts. They've solved so many of our society's ills: broken democracy, lagging technology, toxic masculinity, and thus they flourish through higher learning, mutual aid, and governance without cruelty. They are a golden society who deserve to be as secret as they are. Enter Wonder Woman, so named, I assume, because one wonders why a woman of her caliber and ancestry would leave paradise to play in the mud with us. And then it does cut off, the profile does get cut off there because you're supposed to scroll down, but this was the only source that was let out there. To that point, like this is just a quick sort of clarification I have to give because I've seen it being raised particularly against my reporting a lot, or my article a lot. A lot of people are going, well, and it's clear that the people who are saying this didn't actually read the article. A lot of people are going, that's Lex. He's probably just being facetious. He's probably saying it in like a sarcastic manner. Why are you being so stupid? Why are you being reactionary? Why are you tilting at windmills? And to that, I say, this little bit right here from the files of Lex Luthor, that to me shows that he's not manipulating anybody. He's not being sly. He's talking to himself. Lex is not a jokester. He's not like me, who's going to put in funny little like wordplay into his documents, whether they're personal or public or private. He is Lex Luthor, right? Like he's a man of action. He's a man of like he does things. He's not just sitting there going, oh, this will amuse me. He's busy running Metropolis. He's busy trying to run for president. He's busy running LexCorp. He's busy fighting Superman. And so what I particularly hated about this, aside from the obvious injection of neoliberal rhetoric and all that stupid stuff, like there was no reason to put a toxic masculinity swing in there. You could have made your exact same point without that. That was just obviously you getting your little dig into all the seal clappers. But my problem with this, it goes right back to the same thing I had with King Shark getting a Green Lantern ring, with Harley Quinn being able to kill Batman, yada, yada, yada. This isn't in character for Lex Luthor. As I explained in the article, if you have even a passing knowledge of DC, or no, if you're familiar with, let me rephrase that. If you're familiar with DC, a passing knowledge, like you're not like a parent who goes, oh yeah, Batman. Oh yeah, that's Superman. If you know any bit of their mythos, if you've watched a movie, if you've watched a show, if you've read a comic, you will know that when it comes to Lex and Superman, Lex doesn't fight Superman just to fight Superman. It's not a personal vendetta. He's not trying to, oh, you wronged me, I'm going to show you. Like it's or haha, I'm so evil, I'm going to show how evil I am by killing the world's strongest man. It's none of that. He's not Dr. Sivana. He's not the Joker. Lex specifically hates Superman because he's an alien, right? And so what Lex sees in Superman and all of his abilities is, if we start relying on him, if we, give ourselves over to Superman, we will not advance as a species, as a society. Humanity ends here. We're extinct. We're wiped out, and whatever super metahumans that survive us will take over the world. So that is where he comes from, a humanity preservation aspect, a futurist aspect. If Superman, left the planet, okay, Lex would be done. He'd go, okay, that's all I wanted. Like, I just wanted humanity to have their chance. So for this game to show him as bending over backwards to suck off magical beings. Like, again, the Amazons are not just, a bunch of Greek women who went and made their own society. They are the literal magic gods of Olympus and their descendants. Wonder Woman herself is made from magic clay. She is a clay person given life by Hippolyta, or Hippolyta, however you want to pronounce it. Either way, it's incredibly stupid. And it's just, you don't know the characters you're writing. You ruin their character just to get your weird ideological swing. This is what Glenn's talking about. I don't care what Rocksteady writer as Lex Luthor would think about Wonder Woman. What the hell does Lex Luthor as Lex Luthor think about Wonder Woman? He might admire her to a certain extent for being more final in her battling of super villains than Batman or Superman, or in the fact that she does try to go through political avenues rather than just forcing her will. But there is no way that Lex is going to go, Amazons rule, we got to follow them right now, right? Like, that's just, and it's insulting for them to try and sell that to us and expect us to buy it. Again, they're serving us garbage and expecting us to compliment them on it. And it's like, no, absolutely not. Because, like, why are you being mean? It's because you fucked up. And the kid gloves have to come off at some time. Coddling can, I'm obviously not the kind of person, you guys know me, I advocate for, more respect in conversation and treating each other a little better. But that doesn't mean that everybody should be coddled all the time. Sometimes you need to be real. You need to be honest, and you need to kick somebody in the ass. Otherwise, nothing is going to change. Otherwise, you get Lex Luthor being a Wonder Woman fanboy, right? Josh says, the problem is Guardians of the Galaxy ruined the Suicide Squad. DC keeps writing them like the Guardians, and even then, Gunn took a lot of liberties. So it's Gunn's Guardians of the Galaxy that they want to copy. I actually fully believe that. I didn't really think about that until you raised it right now, but that is 100% on point. They keep trying to make, and again, I've brought this up on multiple streams. It's sort of my my reference point for everything, or for a lot of how media has developed. But Gunn's Guardians of the Galaxy was lightning in a bottle, right? Like, not only was it good, like, it is a genuinely good movie, but because it was good, it was able to take, because Gunn was able to take a team nobody heard of. Like, I know I've recounted this story before, but when I was in college and the Marvel Cinematic Universe started kicking off, I would have friends, who knew I was into comic books. They knew what I loved. I'm not secret about being into nerdy shit. Even on all my dating profiles, like on apps, it's like the first thing says like comic books, video games, anime, whatever. So they knew, and they would come up and they go, "Oh man, like all these movies are so cool. Like who would you want to see, Spencer? Superheroes. All these heroes are getting movies. Who do you want to see?" And so obviously my first answer would, I would qualify and go, well, obviously Spider-Man, but there's the whole Sony thing, so that's not going to happen, right? And then at the time, Cap was one of my favorite heroes, but I was like, well, we're already getting Captain America movies, so that one's, taken care of. So what it came down to was, okay, here are the two characters two IPs that I really want to see on screen. And it was Ant-Man, because I love Scott Lang, and then it was Guardians of the Galaxy, because if you guys, in 2005, they got a new series from Dan Abnett and Andy Lanning, and it is so good. It ties into the Annihilation event with, like Cosmic Marvel, which I consider to be just absolute peak comic book storytelling, that entire Annihilation saga. I've used this page before, and I know I've shown it off. Like, I've used it in articles, and I've used it I'm sure I've shown it on the stream, but that whole event leads to one of my absolute favorite moments in all of comic books. Where is it? I know it's in this folder somewhere. What? How is it not in this folder? I just have a folder saved of, like, comic pages I like, and for some reason, it is not in there. Well, it's very easy for me to Google, because I know exactly what it is. It is... Wow, if I didn't... Wow, I just had one of my classic brain farts. Okay, no, now I remember. Yeah, this like, where is it? Where is it? Like classic war story level stuff where I hate Reddit's like forced internal browser or whatever. But like Nova reaching his like at the end of the line, everything rests on him. The Nova Corps is wiped out. The Guardians are struggling. The Shi'ar are struggling. Annihilus is on the verge of victory. What does Nova do? He just throws his hand into Annihilus's guts and then just whips them out and just fuck. And that's it. There's here. I know I have this page because it's also my it's a follow-up moment to this. A couple months later, so this preceded Civil War, right? By like a year. So this page comes up, and I know I've shown it before, but basically, Nova makes it back to Earth after the war, and he goes and he lands and he starts talking to everybody, and it's in the middle of the registration crisis, and he meets with Tony, and Tony's like, "So where have you been?" And he basically, right here, you can't believe you didn't know about it. We had some intelligence via Shi'ar sources, but it was vague. Frankly, we thought it was just another Kree border squabble, and we were a little busy. Nova fires back. Galactic culture nearly collapsed. Billions died. The Skrull Empire's gone. Xandar too, along with huge chunks of the Kree territories. Quasar died in front of my eyes. Even Thanos was killed. And you heard something vague? As a commander of the United Front, I sent a warning to Earth. I sent it to the Fantastic Four, Mr. Stark. Please, call me Tony. I'll check with Reed. I heard of no warning. Richard, I'd appreciate it if you briefed S.H.I.E.L.D.'s Galactic Affairs Office on the details of this war. You say Annihilus was the driving force? What happened to him? I pulled him inside out and saved the universe. What have you done lately, Tony? Like, I love this moment where it's just sort of like, your problems are stupid. You have no fucking clue what I just went through on the front lines. Like, it's just... So, how did I even get here? The Annihilation story. Oh, Guardians. That's right. So Guardians, like, that, off of that series, I loved it. That's where we got the, where is it? Classic, or Star-Lord outfit. The, that run, the DNA run I'm talking about, gave us the best, like, comic book costume of all time in, that was going to be really tiny for some reason. But this was Peter Quill's costume during that era. Like a World War I Wellington shock trooper. He had same mask that he still has in the movies. And that was one of the biggest disappointments to me, guys, was that when they first announced the movie, I was like, I'm going to see this in real life. This is my favorite costume. Oh my God. Like this is really like probably after Ben Reilly's Scarlet Spider outfit. This is probably my favorite like comic book suit. And so, I was like, oh, I'm so excited, yeah. And then they came out, and it was only the helmet or like the mask, and I went, aw. And then finally, Guardians of the Galaxy 3 comes along, and they give them those outfits, but they don't put Star-Lord in the damn mask. And I'm like, you were so close. You were so close, Gunn. But all of that Guardians talk is to circle back to the point that because of Gunn's giving them a good story, right? And treating them right, like he did a good job on that movie. And because he did so well, and the movie did so well, people wanted to emulate it, but they took the wrong lessons away from it. They took the, it's very much what happened, sort of like with Suicide Squad, it killed the Justice League. It's very common for creators nowadays to sort of only have a very surface level understanding of the property that they're supposed to be working on. Right? Because people go, oh, like what made Guardians of the Galaxy work on film? It was, there were a team of them, they were a little foul-mouthed, and they were roguish, and they were not your classic heroes. Go! And it's like, well, you also forgot that like there was a lot of heart between it. Gunn went out of his way to develop them as characters individually, to give them their own motive. Like, there's a lot there. And they go, no. Team movie. Suicide Squad. Let's do it. And we got what we got. We got 2016 Suicide Squad. Again, worst product I've ever watched in my entire life. but that, because of that Guardians thing, back to Josh's point, because of that success of Guardians, and that's what, Josh is right. Everybody wanted to start emulating them, because not only was it that sort of team dynamic that you could do in a solo film and not a big team up, but it was also, here's a way that we can get more obscure, we can start milking our more obscure characters, right? We can milk Madame Web, we can milk Echo, those are egregious examples, but that's sort of the mentality that it led to, which is, and again, like I said, they only took the surface away from it, so that's why we get garbage, and that's why we get Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. Tehillim says, so they write Lex Luthor like a fourth wave feminist, absolutely, and then the word toxic masculinity is something that has made its appearance in around the last 10 to 12 years around the time of the fourth wave feminist movement. So here's my take on the term toxic masculinity. Now, I don't believe, oftentimes the word is very weaponized nowadays, right? A lot of accusations of toxic masculinity is just like, oh, he left the dishes out last night. Oh, he spent all night playing video games instead of coming to bed at a reasonable time. Dumb shit like that, right? Like, that is often what it's used for. I hate that, because oftentimes the term toxic masculinity is only used to shut down males in a conversation, right? Oh, you're complaining about He-Man? You're just being toxically masculine. Oh, you wanted more, war-style suits for the Guardians of the Galaxy? Stop being so toxically masculine. Like, that's how it always gets used. And then you just go, what? Right? Like, at least back in the day, it's like, how do I come back from that? It's such a ridiculous accusation. And nowadays you can just go, no, shut up. I know what you're trying to do. But to that end, I do think that there are a lot of behaviors that could qualify as toxic masculinity. And that's things like, men, and these are male behaviors, mostly behaviors that are like, refusing to talk about issues that are bothering you. Putting too much self-stress on yourself in the position of provider for a family, right? Or, the difficulties, it's hard for some men to make friends sometimes, just because the way males tend to communicate is a little more abrasive than it would be with the general populace. There are, or like men withholding their feelings because they feel they need to be stoic. There are some things that could fall under this banner, but those are never the things that are talked about. It's never about, let's try and make men's lives better by helping, curb the reasons behind this behavior. It's just, stop that. You're a bad person for that. And the reason I don't really like it, and the reason I don't really ever offer that defense in public, is because nobody ever talks about toxic femininity. It is bullshit. And I, as somebody who, raised with women, aunts, grandmas, sisters, I only have sisters, single mom for most of my life. And then having dated some very, very let me put it this way. I made some poor choices in my dating history, right? There are absolutely toxically feminine behaviors. But unless you're willing to talk about that, unless women are willing to talk about that, you don't get to come over here and yell at us about toxic masculinity, right? Take care of your own house before you come over to my house. And that's what makes me so... That's another element of what bugs me about it in Suicide Squad, is that it's only there. It's not there to sort of dissect anything. It doesn't go into what about society is, so destructively, toxically masculine, Lex. What is it? I don't know. Is it our penchant for fighting that ends up, causing property damage? I don't know. You don't tell us. You just throw the word out there as a virtue signal. That's what it is. It's to go, see, good ally over here. You guys have me. Woohoo! And, not just Lex, but the Rocksteady crew all together. And it's just pathetic. It's not good. It's not creative. It's not good writing. It's not something that should be engaged with, right? But unfortunately, like, that has become... I've been seeing, I forget who brought it up, but somebody on Twitter, there was a thread like in the last 2 days about how merit's gone, because as long as your product nowadays conforms to the message or promotes the right message, you'll get praise and applause and support no matter the quality of your work. And they're not wrong, and it's something we really need to buck. Like, it's a trend we need to buck going forward. Yes, Shinkai, that's a really good point. People shooting for Guardians of the Galaxy but keep hitting Ragnarok, Love and Thunder should get another target. Honestly, I like the phrasing of they should get another target, because clearly they're not hitting this one. They're not capable of hitting this one. But I would also, on the flip side of that coin, Shinkai, it's like, why don't they go get better at aiming? Go do better, Senator. Go get better equipment. Go target practice. Go all of this stuff, because the target's there. People can hit it. Gun clearly hit it. You are just a bad shooter. But yeah, I like that reference to Ragnarok, Love and Thunder, because those movies are probably the best representatives of forget the character. I'm just going to write a story. Right? Like, continuity be damned, canon be damned, character growth be damned. I'm just going to tell a story. And they turned out awful. Like, painfully awful. Do not make me pull up the shot of Thor split kicking the motorbikes again, because I'll do it. I swear to God, I'll do it. And that's another, like, just quick, like, just one sentence rant. That pissed me off so much about Ragnarok, because at the end of Endgame, I was kind of legitimately in for the idea of Thor with the Guardians. I was like, ooh, give him the gun. They're going to have some fun interactions. He'll be able to tap in. Like, that dynamic of Thor and Star-Lord are competing over, like subtly competing over who's the alpha in the group. I thought that would have been so fun to watch on screen. And we got cartoon split kicks, and then they're gone. Literally, like, I told this to Josh the other week, and he didn't believe me. The Guardians are in the movie for 5 minutes, maybe 5 minutes. And despite all the marketing being relying on them, despite them being set up as the next stage, right? 5 minutes, 5 total minutes for the Guardians. It was disappointing. Where's Cider? I need the disappointed. I need that clip right now, because that's how I feel. Don't forget the pop music. Josh, I do my best to forget every single element of pop music from Suicide Squad, right? Oh, wait, you're talking about... No, that's it. I didn't even make that connection until right now. That's what Josh is saying. Like, yeah, Gunn is really good with his soundtrack selections, right? Like, a lot of people go, oh, why does he rely on pop music? It's so lame. And it's like a valid complaint, but also you got to give the guy some credit, because he's not just going and picking top 40s. He's picking songs that mean something to the plot, that means something to the characters. It's not just throwing it in there to throw it in there. All those songs relate to his films. But then, yeah, Suicide Squad. Oh, what was so cool about Guardians? A team? Oh, and they had pop music? Well, get us, House of the Rising Sun. Get us Black Skinhead. Get us all of those other stupid-ass generic songs that they threw in there. Like, you couldn't go any lazier with the Suicide Squad soundtrack if you tried. It's the music equivalent of casting Laura Bailey, Troy Baker, and Nolan North in a video game. Everybody's like, we get it. We know who they are. Get anybody else. Hey, Murtis, what's going on, my man? Yeah, Tehillim says Starro was 10 times better in the Battle of the Super Sons movie than the James Gunn Suicide Squad movie. I agree, but I'm going to offer an unpopular pushback. I actually kind of really like the Starro depiction in Suicide Squad. I thought they gave it like just the right amount of time. He was depicted pretty accurately. They got that part pretty right, and at least in my opinion, and I enjoyed that. But I definitely see and hear your complaint, because if I were to go, which version, if you're a Starro fan, which is going to satisfy you more? Definitely the one in Battle of the Super Sons. Like, I'm totally there with you. We're at 3-a-side squad. Mr. Murtis, have you not seen all of this awful stuff about Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League? Like, this game is a disaster. Shinkai says, speaking of targets, my favorite Gravity Falls joke, my ex-wife misses me, but her aim is getting better. Yeah, like that. I love those kind of jokes. Those are like Rodney Dangerfield. First of all, I love Gravity Falls. Shout out for another Gravity Falls fan. Second, I love like those Rodney Dangerfield jokes. Again, Josh and I were talking about them like just the other day, where it's like, what? Oh, no. What is that one? It's a, oh my God. I know. I can't find the exact quote, but and I'm not gonna try and ruin it, but like yeah, like Rodney Dangerfield is just the king of like setup and then quack, like he cracks you aside. But I'm also really glad that you brought up, you reconnected me to Suicide Squad proper, or the film proper, Josh, because this is something I wanted to show, but you didn't get to show it on Bounding the other day. But how am I going to find this scene? I guess I'm just going to go Suicide Squad movie. Or no, that's just going to give me... Yeah, that's dumb. Oh, okay. Cool. Sort of, really reinforcing just how MCU-y and stupid this entire thing is, right? And how try hard, missing the point. Like that's something we could say about, Gunn's take on the Guardians, right? Is that the chemistry was there. They flowed together really easily. And you didn't really need him to, there was no overt, like, third person people going like, wow, you're a really good team now, right? Or like anything like that. The characters were able to develop as they could. But, yeah, here we go. So this is, but then, Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, and regular Suicide Squad, they just try too hard. They go, we want to do that. How do we do that? Without any sort of deeper understanding of, again, what made it work. So this is the cutscene that I wanted to bring up. I think I've got, oh no, I don't have it at the right time. Hold on. So this cutscene happens, for context, this scene that we're about to watch happens, after the tutorial, about an hour into the game, as you can see through the timestamp at the bottom there. You're broken out of Bell or of Arkham. You eventually get recruited to the Suicide Squad. Once you get your mission, Amanda Waller says, all right, team, like, you start out in prison duds and then you get your gear. You like everybody, they all get their costumes right here. And so let's just get into this. And we got to have the sound on a little bit just so the real... Oh no! Is there no sound being played? Why is there no sound going through for this? I hate... Oh, it's because I have my system muted. So you guys probably heard something, but I didn't. So, they all assemble. You've got the Suicide Squad. Then this, this is very clearly supposed to be that cheesy 80s super, or like astronaut walk, team walk. But it's so, like, it's not tongue-in-cheek. They're trying to be funny about it, right? It's not like, oh, we're going to include it and we know it's a little ridiculous, but we're genuine about it. Wouldn't it be so funny if they did the 80s, like, walk? Isn't that hilarious? And then this. Like, that's how that moment ends. So even if you were totally into the Suicide Squad and you totally loved that cheesy 80s walk, they have to go and they give it that MCU undercut. They cannot help themselves. They think that was clever. They think that scene of a random Argus soldier who they never talk about again, had no interaction with the squad prior to this, just throws a can at them with no retribution. Like, it's so ham-fisted, you're trying too hard, and it's embarrassing. And sincerity is dead. Like, they couldn't even be sincere about wanting to do a cheesy 80s walk, right? Like, again, so, like, for example, I write a lot of fiction. I have a lot of stories and characters. I also, I tend to, in some of my stories, I have tokusatsu-esque superheroes who, they do their poses and they transform and they shout out things. But when I include those, I don't include them to mock them. I include them because I genuinely like it. Like, I know doing poses and going henshin is a little cheesy, especially to, fans or audiences who aren't in the know or aren't familiar with it. But that's not going to dissuade me from going, I really like that, so I'm going to include it. Yes, I know some people will write it off, and maybe it's a little cheesy, and I get that, but I still want to do it. They couldn't even do that here. They're so embarrassed. Like, that's the thing. Again, wrapping it all the way back to my point at the top about everybody's ego being the most important thing to them nowadays. Everybody being wrapped up in being self-important, in being, special, if you will. That, oh no, am I having a brain fart? I think I'm having a brain fart. Oh, right. So their egos, bring it back to the egos. They care so much about, proper social standing, and if their peers like them, and if this is, acceptable, that essentially, oh man, I am totally losing my train of thought. No, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I know it's there. Oh, right. So because they care so much about their image, they can't let themselves even remotely delve into something that might be controversial or weird or different, right? Which is why every video game plays the same, every video game reads the same, yada, 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 yada. This is the kind of shit I'm talking about. Like, they are embarrassed that they wanted to do an 80s walk. I can tell. But then they went, oh, it's so embarrassing to actually do that. Isn't that so lame? Like, people would make fun of us. And so they went, well, let's tell the audience that we know this is stupid too. And it's just like, shut your mouth. That's not, audiences don't want this. The only people who want this are people like you. The people who are embarrassed to like these things. The people who spend, I know I rant about this every day, but it's the people who use nerdery as like a fashion trend, right? Like we all of our lives sort of, as nerds, we were subjected to people writing us off for the things we liked because we were genuine in the things we cared about. And now they come in and they go, oh, that's all really stupid. Why do you like that? That's so stupid. I'm here to make it better for you. Don't worry. It's not going to have any of that stupid cheesiness. Like, it's just, I hate it. I hate it with a passion. And the world would be so much better if you put passionate people in charge of things they want to be put in charge of. Don't put people in charge of The Witcher who hate the source material, right? Put people like, I don't really have a positive example off the top of my head, but like, people who actually like the source material are going to do a good job, and the other people are they're parroting the same mentality as the people who othered us when in earlier years, right? Like, ugh, get away from us. That's so weird. Why do you like that? And it's just, I hate you. I hope all the bad things in life happen to you and only you. Here's sort of that, where is this? This review has been stuck in my head all week. What is that show? Yeah, so in case you guys don't know, there is a show that, a really, really, really good show back in like the early 2000s from HBO called Band of Brothers. And it was a drama about the front lines of World War II, the European front lines. Really, really good. They've gotten a couple sequel series. I know there was one about them in the Pacific Theater, I think. Yeah, volume. I know it's clickety clack, but I had to type some things in. I had to get you your content. But so they recently started a new series called Masters of the Air, Band of Brothers, Masters of the Air. It's basically instead of infantrymen, it's I believe it's bombers, and I believe they're in the Pacific Theater. I can't remember exactly which one, but yeah, where was it? Where is that stupid? Right here. So this is what like the guy sort of his takeaway from watching the series. And again, these series are supposed to be like dramas, period pieces, really get you in the trenches, really just put you there. They're supposed to be high television. This guy complains, quote, "After 2 episodes, I feel I've seen everything Masters has to offer. A dead serious window into the world of B-17 Flying Fortress pilots. Wholly lacking any irony or sense of self-awareness." Oh man, it's cutting it off. There's no winking and nodding to the audience, no joking around, no historic interviews with salt and pepper veterans to humanize the cast. The only thing allowed here is wall-to-wall jingoistic patriotism. The kind where there's no room for anything except God, the United States of America, and bombing the crap out of the enemy, and pining wistfully for that special girl waiting at home. It's like, fuck you. Just straight up fuck you. You are an immature child. You don't want a real, you're not mature enough to engage with something real. You need something going, oh, you need the honking clown horns and the jingling keys every second. These are the people who are in charge of media criticism, of media creation. And this is why fucking everything nowadays is filled with, Suicide Squad level humor, Suicide Squad level irony. It's so fucking tiring, right? Like, piss off. Just, it's really, really at this point in this discussion of Suicide Squad, I really just, that's where I'm at. Piss off. Nobody wants this, and I'm glad that this game is like blowing up so big. Like, or like, what am I trying to say? Like, the implosion is so massive and so public that I'm hoping, and I said this with Pro earlier, I really hope that this signals some sort of change. We players don't want this shit. Fans of DC don't want this shit. We want cool games that treat our heroes with respect. That doesn't mean things can't happen, like Batman dying or the Suicide Squad being able to take down Green Lantern. But there are ways where you can do it where everybody at least goes, at least Batman put up a fight. At least he went out the way a Batman would. Not just, shot to the face and you're to blame. You give love a bad name. Yeah, that's pretty much what it is, Volume Dealer. Fuck you, I'm better than you. That really is what it is. Zero says, the MCU has damaged culture almost beyond repair. Absolutely. It was, a lot of, I genuinely feel, a lot of people say like, oh, it was Whedon's Avengers, or it was Buffy, or it was Firefly that sort of started this self-aware, tongue-in-cheek, or not tongue-in-cheek, but like self-aware, wink to the audience, nudge, nudge sort of mentality we have in fiction. And I do think that's true to a small extent, because that definitely is Whedon's wheelhouse. But back then, with like Firefly and Avengers and all that stuff, it's contained and it's almost, it works in the situations almost, if that makes any sense, right? If somebody is, if Malcolm Reynolds is giving a big speech and a big plan and going, yeah, we're going to do this. And then somebody undercuts him and goes, that's not what you said last night. Like, it would be like that record scratch moment, but then everybody would be like, yeah, that isn't what he said. Why is he changing the plan all of a sudden? Like, it's funny, but it's also like relevant to the plot. It's not just calling him out for changing, oh, we're going to use red instead of blue today, and him going like, it looks prettier or something. Like, it's not that. It's sort of what I'm trying to say. Oh, Volume Dealer is saying it was about the Suicide Squad writers. Yeah, no, I agree with that too then. But, so I've wanted to make this, I've talked about this, the game all week on various channels, That Park Plays, Bounding into Comics, WDW Pro, but unfortunately, the conversations always sort of escape me before I can make this next point. But here's something I really want to communicate, just how bizarre, like embarrassing this headline and this story is for DC. So the long short of it, there's not a lot to sort of read. What you see on the tin is what you get. But in the wake of, so quick recap, like rewind just a little bit. As I said at the top of the game, because this was, this was the last title that the public knew Kevin Conroy was going to be voicing Batman in, right? The last production ever, because that was all that we knew publicly at the time. Understandable, because people are keeping productions under wraps, secrets under wraps, surprises, yada, yada, yada. Totally get that. But it made a lot of fans, it compounded the, no, I tagged you on a post on Wednesday about Suicide Squad. You did? I might not have seen it. Did you tag me or the Bounding account? Either way, I probably just missed it. Like, and if I did, I'm completely sorry. What was I gonna say? Brain fart. Yeah, so that's what everybody thought, that this was his last appearance, and that compounded the situation, because they went, not only is this disrespectful to Batman, but this is the send-off to Conroy. Now, I was sort of I understood that reaction, but I was also sort of, I didn't buy into it because, again, I'm not a big fan of Rocksteady or this game, but the truth of the matter is that this game went into production and was like wrapping up, all of its stuff was recorded, its script was done way before he died. When they were doing this game, nobody knew that this was going to be his very last performance, right? He kept that cancer stuff under wraps. So, while not intentional, like, is it disrespectful to Batman? Absolutely. But it was not a like direct attack, right? If if that doesn't even make any sense. Yeah, no, that does make sense. They weren't direct. They weren't trying to go, okay, this is Conroy's last thing. Ice him. Like, let's make this bad. It was genuinely just bad timing. And Volume says, no, I tagged you. Bounding is too much traffic. It absolutely does. But let me look. Maybe it can still pop up in my feed, because I also get a bunch of tags from like all the other network, like That Park Plays, Comics Division. They all tag me in like when they have a stream going up. So then that sort of like pillages or like shunts everything down a lot. What day even was Wednesday? That was the 31st. January 31st. I'm not seeing anything, Volume. Crazy. I mean, feel free to tag me in it again. I'm not seeing you anywhere. I'm even gonna Control F. No Volume coming up on my reply screen. What's happening here? I might not like the tag. I genuinely don't know, because now I'm at January 29th, and that was 2 days before you wanted to tag me. But yeah, so if you want, no worries. If you find it, throw it my way. If not, we'll find it later. But back to Batman. So yes, it wasn't their fault, but this did end up being Conroy's last appearance as Batman. Now, with all the backlash, at like a day after the game released, and this was completely confirmed as being canon to the game story, an insider, we don't know from who, whether it's WB, Rocksteady, DC, whatever, an insider spoke to IGN and said, and this is clearly damage control. They clearly spoke to IGN in order to sort of temper the flames against Suicide Squad, but they, oh my God, why am I... Obviously, we're like hitting the 3-hour mark, and now my brain is like flying away. But so they reached out to IGN and they went, oh, by the way, this isn't his last role, because he has an upcoming voice cameo in Batman the Caped Crusader, which is the Paul Dini Amazon Prime animated series that they're doing. We don't know if he's going to be Batman in that, but the insider said that he's going to have a voice in there. But then the insider also confirmed that specifically Conroy's Batman the Animated Series Batman is making a cameo in Crisis in Infinite Earths Part 3, which, for those of you who don't know, they're doing a trilogy adaptation of Crisis. The first one just came out. Third one's not due out for like end of the year, I think. But so obvious damage control, right? We all know that. We can all tell that this was like, oh, no, don't worry, it's not his last thing. But what really gets me, and like why this feels like this should be talked about more than it is being talked about, is that before this announcement, there was no information about Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 3. We knew that it would, carry some of the same cast, probably like Barry and the voice actors, Matt Bomer, all that stuff. We knew nothing about it. We didn't know production. We didn't know story. We don't even know where the second part is going to go. I mean, if you know the story, you can kind of follow, but we don't know like what beats it will exactly take, yada, 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 yada. So for them to come out and say, so that all said, I am positive that Conroy's appearance as Batman was supposed to be even further making it ridiculous, like how little we knew about Part 3. I watched Part 1, right? In Part 1, Flash travels to different multiverses, but none of them are specific, like, actual other established canons, right? Like, they're all, like, he goes to Earth 3, he goes to, like, Earth 4, but they're that film universe's depiction of them. So nobody knew that this trilogy, that this series was actually supposed to line up and touch other DC canon. So because they screwed up, because DC shit the bed so bad, and again, not even relating to, they had to come out and give away probably the big, amazing surprise that was supposed to, blow everybody away in Crisis in Infinite Earths Part 3. They had to come out and ruin it and spoil it just because it's all they have to quell the fires. And to me, if you have to come out and your defense is spoiling a future production, especially like again, guys, like imagine if you're watching this movie, right? You're watching this movie. Oh, cool, he's going into the multiverse. Oh, is that like the DCAU? Holy shit. It's called like it would have been amazing. People would have lost their minds, especially in the wake of his death, right? Like even without Suicide Squad, even if Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 3 was his final thing, everybody would go, holy crap, like I can't believe it, like this is so cool, like yay Conroy. You coming out and spoiling it is just, it shows you have no confidence in your actual product and you're just desperately trying to get whatever you can. Awesome, Volume. I'm going for it now. Wait. I'm still not getting anything from you. What the hell is going on? Maybe if I just like here, I will show you what my notifications currently look like. Oh, did you message it to me? No, you didn't message it to me. But see, here's what my notifications currently look like, just to prove to you that I'm not tagging you or pulling your leg, right? I have we've got Dante, we've got some likes on my announcement, we've got a repost of my Happy Zubat Day to all who celebrate, and we've got a retweet from Jorge. Like I don't have anything from you. Oh, there it is. Now it came through. It came through here. Awesome. Let's take a look at this. You guys don't need to see my whatchamacallit. You don't need to see my DMs. Yes. Okay, this is a point to bring up. So this is true. It's a point I didn't really touch upon yet because I didn't know if I was going to, because I touched upon it earlier with Pro. But for those in the know, this game does feature heavy script writing work from the notorious Sweet Baby Inc. Now, we've talked about Sweet Baby Inc. on this channel before. They are a very progressive, very neoliberal, inclusion and diversity focused consultation group, where if you don't have an internal sort of sensitivity group of your own, which a lot of smaller companies may not, you can hire companies like Sweet Baby to come in and give you feedback on it. Now, I want to make this clear, because as I always do, which is Sweet Baby Inc. is not the monolith behind the degradation of our media. They absolutely are a major player. They are easily the most prominent because they are out there constantly promoting themselves. They have, they intentionally give themselves, want a presence on the internet. So, but I want everybody to know that while, yes, criticize Sweet Baby, always take issue with Sweet Baby, they're not the only ones. So stay diligent. Even if tomorrow Sweet Baby disappeared, there is another company that people would start angling towards, right? That's all I have to say about that element, but I want you to all remember that. But yeah, these are the two. So Memology 101 claims that these two women are writers on Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. One of them is the CEO of Sweet Baby Inc. Now, I don't know how true that is. I don't know. I do believe they are Sweet Baby affiliated. I don't know what their specific roles are. But here's my sort of takeaway from it, right? I look at this woman on the right. I don't know who she is, but I don't agree with the read that just her appearance on its face implies that something is going to go wrong. Yes, she's a woman. Yes, she's obviously ethnic of some sort, but that alone does not imply that somebody is incapable of working on a product, right? However, on the left, somebody who presents themselves with that very, for lack of a better term, rebellious, mohawk cut, dye in your hair, that is somebody who I can tell from the jump, and even with the Wonder Woman We Can Do It poster in the background, that is somebody who is 1000% ideologically motivated. And yeah, to find out that she, the one on the left in particular, that woman is on the team, I am not surprised. At all. Jacob's nemesis. Dude, it looks... Oh, man, that's weird. Oh, that's super weird. Oh, I'm going to send that to Jacob, immediately. That's super weird. But yes, like, what am I trying to say here? Sweet, like, this is true. Like, sweet baby, everybody. That's why we have those moments of toxic masculinity, of, there's a scene in Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League where Harley Quinn happily and proudly sexually assaults Deadshot, and it's played for laughs, and it's supposed to be so funny and so great. And it's like, okay, what if we did that the other way around, right? Like, it's, once you see the ideology leak in, you can sort of see where this is all coming from. I don't know if I touched upon it here, but like, as I said earlier, my operating philosophy is, but why? Like why? For what reason? What purpose is that change made? And I guarantee you that, all the games they've worked on, have those moments where you go, why is this like this? I have to go back. Like, who worked on this game? What is up with this? Alan Wake 2, where with its complete race swapping of Saga Anderson in between. Like, she had a full model, full character, everything. She was in a full release, and then they just race swapped her for no reason in 2. Marvel Spider-Man 2. We've gone over that thing. That thing is loaded to the brim with all that sort of nonsense. Obviously, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. 98% of the time, where there's smoke, there is fire, right? So if it smells like it reeks of ideology, it probably does reek of ideology. But, yeah, so like all that said, this entire thing is a gigantic disaster. I really hope, I want this to be so bad that it elicits change. Because you guys know me, I want a video game collapse to come in. We cannot keep making video games. Suicide Squad took 10 years to make. That's fucking bonkers. No video game should take that long to make, right? It didn't need the budget it needed. It didn't need all of this shit. It's just, we need a reset in the industry, and I hope that this is, like, one step forward to getting something better. And again, like, I only want to touch on this because it was on the top of my head before I replied to Volume Dealer. But, for a classic example of how desperate revealing a surprise is, I always go back to the very first Power Ranger, or the Power Rangers 2017 movie, right? That movie ends with a post-credit scene showing it shows the classroom in Angel Grove, and the teacher's calling attendance, and he goes Tommy White, and it just shows like an empty desk, and it's like, oh look, Green Ranger's coming in the next movie. That movie did so bad that in its like second week in release, the director had to come out and he made a post on Twitter that's like, oh, check this out, Green Ranger coming next movie. You're gonna want to have to see how he gets his start in the first one. And it's just like, whoa, dude, like that's real. You know that you stepped in it. Anytime that you have to give away something so major, it just clearly you've stepped in it. But let's see. Yeah, I think that's mainly the stuff we had to talk about tonight. We went through localizers. I touched on Palworld. We talked Suicide Squad. I had my little One Piece trading card game detour. So I think we are at the 3-hour mark. I think this is probably a fantastic time to stop. I know that, some of you guys have your own streams to get to. I know Jacob's movie stream is running right now, and I want to be over there because he's reviewing Argyle, which apparently is it's a whole thing. It's a whole discourse that's happening between people who think it's okay and people who think it's terrible. So just want to, get his thoughts on that, obviously. But yeah, with that, I think we'll start calling it a night. Obviously, this was first show back after being sick, after being out in LA for the Bandai Nationals. I'm so happy to be back. I'm so happy to be able to talk to you guys. All of these thoughts have just been boiling in my head over the past couple weeks, and like I always say, right? Like, I love Friday nights. I love being able to hang out with all of you guys. I hope that you, it kicks off your weekend in the right way, that it kicks off mine. And, I couldn't do this without all of you guys who watch. I know we had Joy, we had Volume Dealer, Josh, Shinkai, Zero, Meteor Advocate Timon was here for a little bit, Tehillim, anybody else who's out there in the replay. I know I get a couple of those. So, again, thank you guys for watching. I couldn't do any of this without you. with that said, if you want more of me, you can obviously follow me on Twitter at KabutoWriterMav. If you want to see more of me live, you can obviously same Mav time, save Mav channel, back here next Friday, 5 p.m. Pacific time for another episode of The Good, the Mad, the Ugly. As always, topics are decided the week of, so I have no idea what we'll be talking about. It kind of just depends on what the world is going to throw at us. Oh my gosh. Oh no. Okay, no, I do. But yeah, if you want that, oh no, is because I just realized I don't have your last minute call for last minute news ready to go. I have to like pull it up. And I know what it's going to be because it's like it's very relevant. Clack, 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 clack volume. But yeah, if you want to see more of me before next week's stream, if you want to see more of me live, you can always catch me on the Bounding Into Comics 01 stream every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern time. So that'll be 6 p.m. Pacific time, where I hang out with Jacob, Cider, and sometimes Josh when he's feeling up to it. And we break down the world's bigger pop culture news. So if you want to talk Marvel, DC movies, television, that's the place to do it. Obviously here is for the more obscure topics. Yeah. And again, check out that videos. Check out the YouTube channels for That Park Place and WDW Pro, where I am a regular guest. There's no real schedule. You'll just have to see if I pop up, kind of like a random Pokemon encounter. But with that, and I know that's like the fourth time I've said, but with that, I do finally have your last minute call for last minute news. Now, this one is in honor of Kevin Conroy. Like I said, this is probably one of, if not my favorite, DCAU Batman moments. I'm sure a lot of you will know it as soon as I get there, but we should, yes, perfect. Now that I have it up, here is your last call for some last minute news.
That X-ray vision working yet?
Just enough to see Hawk soldiers still patrolling the skies.
They'll have the whole city covered by now.
Who knows? Maybe they'll get tired and go home. Yeah, I know. But a little optimism at a time like this couldn't hurt.
This is the voice of the Thanagarian Occupational Authority. Your so-called Justice League is in violation of our martial law. They are to be considered an enemy and dealt with on sight. Any person found aiding or harboring them will be summarily punished.
Okay, so much for optimism.
For the time being, we're gonna have to go underground.
How exactly do we hide when the entire planet is looking for us?
They're looking for the Justice League. Without our costumes, we are merely ordinary citizens.
Hold on a second here. What about the whole secret identity thing? I mean, I trust you guys, but I'm not sure I'm ready to...
Wally West, Clark Kent, Bruce Wayne.
Show off.
Red hair. It suits you.
You think?
Change, now.
Just a great Batman moment, right? He's Batman. He already knows. Yeah, awesome, guys. I hope you guys have a great rest of your night, a great rest of your weekend. I'm sure I'll talk to probably most of you on social media over the next couple days. And until I see you all again, take it easy.